is.
I've got to question why Charlie made a video on it then, if he didn't know anything about the drama. All it did was give a misinformed take on a subject I was already getting my ass blasted for.
Unless he got sensitive or insecure talking about the issue, if he felt guilty, I don't know, but I didn't even say his name. I had no idea. 2 players, I believe, were banned from the server, which is where most of this drama just stemmed from. I saw a couple clips where like a girl was just standing out in the open and then a guy ran in on a horse and just shot her on sight and took her shit. A Rust Pro might be waiting in a ghillie suit in one of the bushes to just shoot you on sight, just sitting in a bush for fucking 30 minutes.
I think this is such a cop-out. It's feigning ignorance for the sake of damage control, when everyone knew who Charlie was talking about. He himself might not have known exactly who he was talking about, but I'd argue this makes his video worse, as it really shows he made an entire video just from word of mouth and 1 or 2 clips with no other research done into the matter. It'd be like me saying, hey, there's this one YouTuber with long black hair, got a beard, always wears a white shirt, has a monotone voice, says poo poo pee pee caca. People are gonna know exactly who I'm talking about. People aren't dumb, they can connect the dots, and in this case, it was made so easy for them, it was like connecting dot 1 to dot 2.
Yeah, I got like 10 emails from him and then 9 others about it. So what do you mean, his side of the story? I didn't know there were sides. I just watched clips of people being miserable getting...
This is the email he is referring to. Hey Charlie, I just want to briefly email you about your Rust drama video because I don't really know how else to reach out. If you filter your comments to new on there, you will see a lot of people asking you to look at my side because what you said was pretty misinformed. I love you and your videos and will still continue to watch, and you were my favorite person I met on the first server. But I just wanted to let you know that I've shown everything that's been said about me from everywhere was based on misinformation, flat out lies, and out of context clips. Thanks, dude. And then I sent him a link to my video and added, P.S. The Trash Man stuff is dope, referring to his roleplay on the Divide server. I don't know why he seemed annoyed at the fact I'd sent him an email. I kept it respectful, thinking he'd see it and maybe set the record straight, but instead, he looked at it and chose to dismiss it. When he said, Sir Winter as well got really offended as if I called him out, it's clear to me that he was trying to paint me in an unfavorable light, when this wasn't the case. It was a shame to see this reaction to my email. I always thought Charlie to be a man who strived to pursue the truth of the matters at hand. In the next clip, we can see that people must have been asking Charlie a lot about readdressing the Rust drama video because he was about to lose his temper on the matter.
Oh my god, I swear to god, the people that are into Rust drama have to be the dumbest fucking people on the planet. I didn't even know Sir Winter was involved. I never said his name in the video. Watch the video. Actually watch the video. If that's what it's about, Crypting, watch it. And if you find a place where I call out Sir Winter, I'll give you $100. And when you don't find it, you owe me 20 gift subs. Fucking idiots. Holy shit.
Charlie was using a loophole here when he says he never called me out by name. But as I said earlier, you don't need to use someone's name to call them out, but rather the very specific actions they're being cancelled for.
Like at least one. Watch the video and then pick it apart. You probably just read a single Twitter post.
Ironic.
Do you accept the bet, Crypting? Waiting on you. Tell me.
Do it.
Waiting on you, Crypting. You were so brave just a second ago. Come on, bro. You can't say you weren't talking about him. Oh, so okay, yeah. You were in my head when I made the video. No, I guess I did know it was him. That's why I called him out by name, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you must be right. Yeah. No. You tell me what I was thinking. Fucking minds of 12-year-olds is crazy these days. Take the bet, Crypting, if you're so confident.
Man, Charlie really had it in for this Krypton fella. Crypting, if you're watching this, I 100% think you should have gotten that $100. Hashtag justice for Crypting.
I don't know what it is. When I played with Sir Winter, it was a positive experience, but ever since I posted that video, again, I had no idea he was even involved. His community, or just Rust drama people, have been the dumbest fucking people I've ever seen in my fucking life on this platform.
Damn! Sorry, guys. Sorry that happened to you.
It's crazy.
Nearly 2 minutes would pass of Charlie doing some gamba at the Rust wheel when he'd call out Crypting again for the bet.
Where you at, Crypting? Haven't seen you in a little while. Did you accept it? I'm still waiting on those gift subs because you're just blatantly fucking wrong. You know you can't win against the gang no matter what. Oh, now you're just gonna play the victim. Oh no, I'm overwhelmed. I was super wrong and people called me out. It's gang.
This one's gonna be a solid 10.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know what was going on in chat, but I imagine Crypting was being dogpiled in there.
That's the problem.
Oh, you are owning, huh?
You can't admit when you're just outright wrong. Now you're just blaming other things besides just being a fucking idiot. You will make it a lot further when you can just admit you're wrong. Trust me, Crypting. When you get out of middle school, that's gonna be super valuable to just take responsibility. Trust me, it's a valuable life lesson. I hate that victim complex. Oh, it's a gang. No, I wasn't wrong. I know the truth, despite being outright blatantly proven wrong. I'm still right. It's just too many people ganging up on poor innocent old me. I was fighting for justice. What did I do wrong, Crypting? Tell me. Tell me what I did wrong.
Next to the 5.
You said I called out Sir Winter. I never said his name. I proved you wrong right to your face, and you're still saying that you're right.
All right, 250.
That makes you a fucking idiot. And I know you went back and watched the video to try and find where I said his name, and you didn't find it. And do you know why? Because I didn't know he was involved. God, I don't know why I even bothered talking to fucking kids like that. But I think kids need to learn, like, early on not to be stupid fucking assholes raised by the internet. Spending all day on Twitter looking for like 3 sentences to get mad about for the entire day.
Dude, I'm watching the stream while you try not to laugh, bro. That's disrespectful, bro. What's wrong with you, bro? Stop laughing, bro. Look at you smiling, bro.
It's really been just Rust. Pretty much every other community from like other big games we've been playing have been nothing like Rust. It's crazy. Fucking miserable people in the community.
All in all, even if Charlie didn't mention me by name, but rather the hyper-specific actions I was being accused of, he still made a video that was incorrect and never readdressed it. It again. I'm going to use this small, obscure podcast as an example of how misinformation can spread like Chinese whispers. 3 mates were just talking about the whole thing, and this is what they had to say.
A little bit more context though. It was at Trainwreck's house, so he was basically door camping Trainwreck's.
Okay.
It was like 10 feet away from his base, and he was like in a bush waiting for him. So that is scummy. It's like it would be different maybe
Yeah, I
if
didn't
it
know
was
that.
like Yeah, if it was like some like in the random part and he like heard him running up and he wanted to fight, that's a different situation. But like door camping a new player in a bush outside of his base when he's trying to learn the game, that's just like scummy. And especially when Sir Winter has like 1.2 mil subs on YouTube, he plays the game like 10,000 hours, like he knows the game.
Don't send these guys hate, and remember, this is 5 years old. But this is the perfect example of how this whole thing snowballed into something well out of my control, simply because Train shit talked me in a game. Like, it's so stupid. The dramas from the OTV server will go down in history as some of the most entertaining conflicts to come out of Rust. Love it or hate it, there's no denying that the OTV Rust event was a pinnacle moment in the Rust lore, creating a shift in the culture and gameplay that is still seen today. And speaking of Rust lore, I bet you didn't know Gary Newman got fired and built the Face Punch Empire out of pure spite. Well, I made a video on it. It's on screen right now. Check it out. It's a pretty incredible story.
Willis is coming to raid you.
I got it.
Stick fit in your mouth.
Oh, okay.
Well, it turns out mixtape, nobody likes this game. Or lots of people like this game and say it's game of the year. Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to not have played mixtape. I haven't played it yet. I want to get to it. And Brian Garr hasn't played it yet either. But we've just been following the internet narrative.
Yeah, I'm excited for the French kissing mini game that's apparently... Oh, wait, it involves teens. I'm not excited. No, I'm not. Gross. Didn't like it as a teen either. But yeah, so Mixtape. It's the new indie game that was supposed to be this nostalgic coming-of-age story about teens, music, and the suburbs. And yeah, it has got good reviews from critics, and people are mad about those good reviews. So yeah, we'll get into all of it.
Yeah, so all right, so Mixtape, published by Annapurna Interactive and developed by Beethoven and Dinosaur, launched last week, and it's currently sitting at an 85 on Metacritic. IGN gave it a 10, calling it, quote, a musical delight from start to finish, and saying that it, quote, sets a new standard for coming-of-age stories in video games and does so with a masterful sense of style.
GameSpot also was a big fan, gave it a 9, saying it offers a sincere, often hilarious look at growing up set to an incredible soundtrack. And then our buddy Gene Park from the Washington Post said that playing it is like, quote, living in a John Hughes movie. And if you're not old, John Hughes directed a bunch of great 80s movies. That's what they're referencing. But yeah, and they said it definitely leans into that late 80s and 90s nostalgia.
Yeah, other outlets praise the game's emotional storytelling. This all sounds great, right? I feel like we should be reporting on the fact that Mixtape everybody loves it, and it's a great video game. Well, that's not true because it's the internet. Some people are just not happy at all. Instead of simply becoming one of those games critics just disagree on, Mixtape quickly got pulled into a broader internet slap fight.
Yeah, so it takes on various forms, so we'll try to hit the highlights. Some of the criticism centered on Annapurna Interactives and its ties to billionaire Larry Ellison through founder Megan Ellison, which I believe is his daughter. There's talk of support of the Israeli Defense Forces, and like that got involved. It's crazy. Yeah, PC Gamer's Harvey Randall noted that some players objected to financially supporting companies connected to Ellison because of his support for the IDF. So it's all over the place.
I mean, okay, all right. I hadn't heard that about Annapurna. Interesting. There are also claims the game's positive reviews were somehow manipulated or astroturfed, as well as accusations that its Australian developer Beethoven and Dinosaur was pretending to be an indie studio despite openly working with a major publisher. I saw this tweet about how Mixtape was an industry plant, Brian.
Yes. Yeah, like when like a musician just pops up out of nowhere and you're like, wait a minute. Right. And they've already sold 20 million albums. Yeah, and speaking of that IGN review that we talked about earlier, that came under criticism because gamers were wondering, why did you give a perfect score to this small, 2 to 3 hour indie game that came out of nowhere? And other games, are getting sort of, I think they, like bigger games recently didn't do as well. They're like, what's up? I'm trying to think. Crimson Desert, they only gave a 6 out of 10 to. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mixtape has minimal mechanics. Some sections can be completed without the player doing much of anything. That was the video that was going around over the weekend. So reviewer Christina Tacey posted a clip of the game's protagonist running through a neighborhood, observing that she doesn't need to do anything or press anything. Tacey said, interactivity can make a mid-story better, but this game doesn't understand that because it does not want to be a game. Now, again, I've seen this so many times with games like Heavy Rain and like those sorts of games where it doesn't matter what you do in a sequence. You're sort of playing a movie a little bit.
Yeah, lots of games I feel like are like that, but they're just saying they're kind of just saying this is kind of a visual novel, and some players were wondering why such a game was getting such high scores. Reddit user Twiftoil was explaining the controversy, wrote, some people saw this and went back to some recent releases to compare, and they think it either doesn't make sense or is inconsistent. They're talking about IGN's perfect score. And they said, for example, Pragmata got an 8 out of 10 and Crimson Desert got a 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, I mean, I'm not trying to defend IGN, but IGN has a bunch of different reviewers. So it's not the same person doing all of their reviews, which maybe explains why the scores are so crazy. But essentially, people just don't believe that the game was made by a scrappy little studio in Australia.
What do you think the most important decision Bethesda ever made was? I'm curious what other people think it might be, so just leave a comment if you want. But it could be something like buying Fallout, maybe making Skyrim. I mean, these two things have proven to be very good business decisions. It could be promoting Todd to being the only one that can make important decisions, apparently. Was it making Starfield? Okay, we know it's not that one. I think the answer is teaching players to fix, expand, and preserve their games for them. So in other words, modding.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
Because modding does 5 big things. It extends the lifespan of a game, in the case of Bethesda games, extremely long. It can deepen your investment in a game if you can constantly look for new mods to download. It lets you build your ideal version of a game, and of course it allows them to release broken games and patches knowing that the modders will fix it. But the biggest benefit to them now is that it makes them microtransaction money.
We don't give two shits about how technology works, because all we care about is getting fucking rich.
Isn't it crazy that Special Edition came out almost 10 years ago? And it still pulls half its peak every single day. I mean, I'm sure no one thinks Skyrim would be as popular as it is without mods. I mean, apparently Skyrim Special Edition accounts for nearly 65% of all Nexus downloads. And I think this all ties into the Bethesda magic, which is of course exploration, music, freedom, jank, and getting unpaid labor to fix your broken shit.
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
But we do have to talk about that unpaid part, because some of them are paid now through the Creations program. And I wanted to find out how much modders make on Creations, because I remember hearing with the Creation Club a while back that it wasn't great.
I need that money.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
From what I can find online, it seems that they're paid on a royalty fee system, which the internet claims is 37.5%, which I think is not bad at all, really. Apparently ZeniMax sets the price of the creations. I guess anyone can release free ones, but only verified creators can do free or paid. I should mention that it's not an open storefront and that you can't just post anything. ZeniMax fully controls the approval process. They also apparently basically own anything posted, and you cannot post it elsewhere like on Nexus, I guess. They also say that creators must support their paid creations, which I find funny because, I mean, can they take 18 months to fix something?
Day is never finished. Master got me working. Someday Master set me free.
But I do want to talk about how paid mods evolved over time. It all started in April 2015, when Valve allowed people to sell Skyrim mods on the Steam Workshop. This was of course with Bethesda, and Bethesda admitted discussing this with Valve since 2012 in like a Polygon interview or some shit, which is notably 1 year after Skyrim. I think the best part of all of this was the revenue split. 25% went to the creator of the mod, 30% went to Valve because they take 30% of every single thing on Steam, and your math is correct. 45% went to Bethesda.
Now that's a lot of damage!
This could be documented as Bethesda's first real PR disaster. If you have another one in mind, let me know in the comments. I mean, obviously they had incredibly buggy game launches in the past and all that, but if you were around back then, you would, I mean, that stuff really didn't matter to people.
Good work. That's one less round roads to deal with.
Like, sure, some people had their saves deleted and all of that stuff. I'm sure they were upset. But up until this point, people saw Bethesda as just kind of like a kid trying his hardest. But this was very public, whereas other dramas like how much they sued to get the Fallout license under control, that was more behind the scenes type stuff. It wasn't really in front of everyone's face. So I don't know, let me know what you think about that. Something I noticed is that prepaid mods, we had Morrowind, Oblivion, Fallout 3, New Vegas, even though it wasn't made by them, but they will take credit, and Skyrim. Post-paid mods, we had Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Starfield, mobile games, and the Microsoft deal. All I'm saying is after they released Skyrim in that 2012 to like 2015 phase, there was a clear shift. And I don't feel like I'm blowing it out of proportion. I mean, there were a lot of articles written about this. But eventually Valve backed down. But Bethesda did not. And they came back in 2017 with the Creation Club. Now, they really wanted you to think that the Creation Club was not paid mods. They realized paid mods sounded really bad, and people did not like that. So they went for a more curated mini DLC type thing instead. I mean, they also know microtransactions sounds really bad too. The creators of the mods were paid based on milestones. I guess the idea is they would pitch something to Bethesda, Bethesda would approve it, they would lay out a timeline for when it would get done, and they would get paid along that timeline based on when things got done, I guess. What's important is there was no revenue share or royalty system in place for this, which is a lot better for Bethesda. I mean, the 25% revenue share with the Valve deal was way better than this. With something like this, you basically always want some sort of royalty. I can't imagine that Bethesda was paying them well enough to forego the royalty system. Reminds me of that one guy from Shark Tank. He always wants a royalty. Kevin O'Leary, something like that. So yeah, they went from paid mods with Valve to the Creation Club, and then to Creations, which I kind of already explained how that payment works. I think it's by far the best version of what they're trying to do here. It probably helps a lot of people because if the 37.5% thing is true, then that's pretty good. And it effectively brought modding to console in a pretty palatable way, apparently. I mean, people use it. But of course, as I talked about in a previous video, I think a lot of the stuff on there is just kind of slop. I'm not saying the mods are bad. I'm just saying there's probably a free version on Nexus, which I know doesn't help console players. And that's who I kind of feel the system is in place to farm. But it seemingly works and we will not see it going away anytime soon. Now, I think all of this supports modding being the most important thing Bethesda ever did. The premise from the start. But what about the creation engine? It gets a lot of hate. I mean, it's graphically outdated. It has ancient bugs that Bethesda can't seem to fix, but modders do in a week after every game comes out. It runs like absolute shit, but it is the only reason modding is so robust for Bethesda games. Kind of a funny story about the creation engine. Fallout 4 has lots of dupes and exploits in that game. Doesn't matter because it's a single player game, so who cares? The problem is all of that was imported to 76, and that's why 76 was broken so quickly. People even found out how to inject Fallout 4 items into 76. They are that similar. But this all kind of brings us to the creation kit, because Bethesda doesn't just allow mods. They release the same tools used to build their games to begin with. This is why mods can be so impactful in a Bethesda game compared to other games. Like in Resident Evil 9, people can turn enemies into Shrek, but I don't think they can do what they can do in Skyrim. And this is why community games can even be made like Fallout London. All because of the creation kit and all because of the creation engine, which all stems from like an engine from like 2002 or something. Hang on, I need Google. I guess the original technology behind Bethesda's engine was developed in 1997. But as I said, Bethesda began using this core technology in 2002. So it has been iterated on for literally decades. It started as a construction set for Morrowind and Oblivion. They called it the GECK for Fallout 3 and New Vegas. That's actually very cool by them because the GECK is something in Fallout lore. And they've called it the creation kit for Skyrim, Fallout 4, and Starfield. And like I said, they've been doing this since 2002. Another little fun fact is that the creation kit wiki is fan run. So the community basically made its own school. How much do you think Bethesda employees themselves reference this? I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just funny. And it's all very interesting because the creation engine is a janky, broken, outdated loading screen simulator. But meanwhile, it's like Bethesda's greatest asset. It gives their games wildly extended lives. It's created almost a cult following for their games. Like I said, I just don't think Skyrim would be nearly as popular without all the mods. And sadly, more recently, it has created microtransaction economies in their old single-player RPGs. It's sad, but it's almost not sad too. Because like I said, console players do benefit from this a lot. I don't know, it just sucks to see microtransactions in single player games like that. But then when you argue against it, it's like you're trying to say modders shouldn't get paid. That's definitely not what I'm trying to say. I don't know, it's a whole thing. But thanks to the creation engine, Bethesda didn't build games, they built platforms. Whether intentionally or unintentionally. And I gotta wonder what this means for Elder Scrolls 6. Cause I think a co-op feature would be huge. Co-op modding has never been bigger than it is now, I believe. Like an easy one I can point to is Project Zomboid. I think this game is kept alive by how many mods you can download and play with your friends, like very easily. And isn't that all we asked for from the start? We never wanted a Fallout 76. It is just crazy how they took everybody wanting just a co-op adventure and made 76. Only Bethesda. Now I should mention Bethesda isn't entirely unique with this. Of course other games have similar programs. There's a Minecraft partner program. Arma 3 has some creator program. I think Valve does this in all of their biggest games. There's Roblox and Fortnite. But I will say Bethesda's version is pretty special. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. If you want to buy a mug, they're linked below. Thanks to all the doodles on the board that have signed up. And have a good day.
So, you're trying to get into Starfield, and you just can't. You spent 5 to 10 hours in the game, maybe more, and things just feel aimless. The main quest hasn't hooked you, and it probably never will, and every other quest seems so disjointed that it's hard to immerse yourself in this massive open world that Bethesda has offered here. Or maybe you're about to jump into the game for the first time and want a bit of guidance. Well, with over 600 hours into Starfield and 7 different characters on file, I'm your man. You have clicked on the right video. But I will tell you this, nothing I say to you in this video is going to help you if you aren't willing to get into Starfield. If you're coming in to dunk on the game and pick it apart at every turn, then you're going to probably have a bad time. That's because Starfield has a galaxy of flaws. As much as I love this game, and boy, do I love this game, I have several issues with it. Everything from performance, to the undercooked melee combat, to the step back BGS took in crafting and outpost building that they had in Fallout 4. I can be objective and recognize the issues with the game, but I always wanted to like Starfield, and that willingness to let some things slide has allowed me to enjoy all the cool things this game does have to offer. It's like going to a buffet. Sure, there's going to be some nasty looking stuff on display, but if you find your go-tos, you're eating pretty good. So please, leave your "the best way to play Starfield is to throw it in the trash" comments down below if that's all you're here to do. But for those of you wanting to actually get into the game, I'm going to give you an approach that I think will certainly help. That's right, I said approach. I'm not going to get into a bunch of, this is how you should level up your skills, or this is how you upgrade your gear. I'm not going to tell you how to farm XP or make millions of credits quickly. I will, however, offer a few pro tips because I do believe some things are vital information for your everyday spacefaring life, but really, the secret to enjoying Starfield is the approach. Hey Lex, what the heck do you mean approach? Are you telling me there's a wrong way to play Starfield? No, not really. You can play Starfield many different ways and have a good time, but it's a vital mistake to approach Starfield like it's just another Fallout or Elder Scrolls, but in space. That's because Starfield is structured in a very different way. Where Fallout 4 or Skyrim give you a large square map jam-packed with quests, secrets, and loot to explore and find, Starfield gives you billions of square maps that are sparsely peppered with those same things. Some of those things are set in stone, and some are procedurally generated. This design was on purpose. The intent was to make you feel like you're really exploring a galaxy of planets that is on the dawn of a new frontier. And this setting is ripe for Bethesda to populate the world with new stories and gameplay features year after year, which they've done, albeit at a slower pace than most of us Starfield fans would have hoped for. My point is, Starfield actually has a ton of content in it. Even after 600 hours played, there are still quests and points of interest that I know I haven't come across yet. But the best way to approach Starfield is by role-playing. Yep, that's the big secret. Roleplay. Hey Lex, I roleplayed in Skyrim the same way I tried to in Starfield. I have over 1,000 hours in Skyrim with my character, and I've done all the content in that game. Well, friend, that's your problem. If your one singular character is doing everything in the game, that's not really role-playing. Unless your character was a down-for-anything type, then I guess you role-played the heck out of that character. But what I mean by role-playing is coming up with a character that has a specific background, morals, occupation, etc. Limitations that you adhere to as the player in order to immerse yourself in the world as the character. Letting your character grow organically based on the situations they encounter. Only doing the content in that game that that specific character only would do. If you want to get into Starfield, like truly get into Starfield, you're going to have to commit to playing through the game multiple times and creating multiple characters to tackle all the different content. Why? Why is this suggested for Starfield and not any other BGS RPG from the past 15 years? That's because Starfield was designed to be a hardcore role-playing game. As Todd Howard stated in interviews before the game's release, Starfield is less akin to Fallout 4 or Skyrim and more similar to Oblivion and Daggerfall. In a lot of ways, Starfield feels like a very old game, and I don't think the creation engine is the sole reason for that. The design philosophy was old school from the start, and that just doesn't click with some people. But for me, it's one of my favorite parts about the game. The skill chart in Starfield is huge, and each skill has 4 ranks to master. To master these ranks, you'll need to not only spend a skill point on each one, but you'll also have to complete the challenge linked to it as well. I love this system, but you're not necessarily swimming in skill points all the time, so having a plan in place based on your build is going to help you feel less overwhelmed and more focused. Yes, you will have to redo the opening few hours of Starfield with every new character, but once you get to the Constellation Lodge in New Atlantis and hear their spiel, you're free to move about the Starfield universe as you please. Listen, I know this has been a long ramble, but it's important. This video is going to walk you through how many characters you should be creating, what sort of order you should play them in to both learn the game and approach the fun stuff first, and what kind of characters you can create 4, 5, 6, 10 playthroughs deep in order to continue exploring the ginormous amount of content that Starfield offers. And by the way, this is all vanilla, no mods, except for the Trackers Alliance stuff, which is technically a mod, but acts as official content. If you're into mods, Starfield has plenty of that on offer, but I'm going to try to get you to like this game as is. So, let's get to it. Character number 1. This character is going to be your tour of Starfield. All I want you to do with this character is go through the main quest. You're dedicating this character to Constellation. You can do the occasional smaller side quests if that interests you, but don't force yourself to do anything. The big thing here is do not do any of the faction quest lines. This means no Crimson Fleet, UC Vanguard, Freestar Collective, Ryujin Industries, etc. These faction quests are some of the best quests in the game. Hey Lex, if these are some of the best quests in the game, why would you advise against doing them? Calm down, Eager Beaver. You will eventually do these quests, but you'll do them with different characters. These are major quest lines, and they'll act as main quests for your subsequent characters, since you probably won't be doing the Constellation quest on future playthroughs. So, with this first character, we're not worrying about speccing the character too much, just making a character based off of you. And know that any traits that you pick can be removed in the game somehow. Use this character to explore the systems of the game. Not the solar systems. Don't do that. You'll have a separate character for that. Use this playthrough to test out all the different weapons and see which ones you like best. Get a feel for combat, as combat is the majority of this game. Mess around with crafting and the outpost building, but don't get too serious about it. Stuff like outpost building is really a late game activity, as you'll need a few maxed out skills to really get the most out of outposts. Try exploring with companions, and if you want to, do their quest lines, go for it. But I'd limit it to one companion for this character. For the most part, the main quest in Starfield acts as a tour of the game. It shows you a glimpse of the many systems in Starfield without really diving deeply into any of them. That's why, on one hand, the main quest kinda sucks, but on the other hand, it's actually pretty great. So long as you commit to multiple playthroughs, you can go through Constellation's questline knowing that this is just the tip of the iceberg here. Consider it a 20 to 30 hour test run, and if you want to, you can take this character into New Game Plus to see what that's all about once you finish Constellation's quest. Now, before we move on to character 2, I do want to give you some general tips to help you in your first playthrough. Firstly, save often and have several different saves. Usually 5 save spots is enough per character, and you'll want to manage those slots as you create more characters, as having too many saves overall can actually mess with the game. Delete old saves you don't want anymore, keep an autosave, manually save every single time you stop playing, and have a few earlier saves just in case anything catastrophic happens. The game does have crashing issues at times, and I hear it's a problem with the PS5 version right now, so it's always good to have multiple backups, just don't go crazy with them. Secondly, don't pick up everything. One of your first missions will have you running through a research facility on the moon of Crete, and if you're coming from Fallout 4, you're going to have the urge to pick up everything you see, because you probably assume that, like in Fallout 4, everything you can pick up has a use. That even the mundane junk can be broken down into crafting parts. That is not the case in Starfield. Only some items are used in crafting, while most items you can find laying around can only be sold for credits, and they're usually not worth enough to overburden yourself. That goes for weapons, spacesuits, helmets, and resources. If you pick up everything you find, you're gonna be over-encumbered quickly. And even though it says something is worth a certain value, that doesn't mean that's what you're gonna get for it. I always like to use a weight to value ratio to determine whether I pick something up. As you get further into the game, that value will likely rise to something like 10,000 credits per mass. I usually always pick up legendary loot no matter what, just because, but that will be so rare early on that you won't need to worry about having too many legendary items mucking up your inventory. Obviously, you should always pick up any credits or ammo you find, since those don't weigh anything on normal settings, and I'd always grab the med stuff. Unless you're doing a survival run, food is pretty useless in Starfield, so eat it if you want to, but don't let it take up space in your inventory. Thirdly, you can charge up some of your weapons to do more DPS. When using the cutter, you can hold the left trigger down to get a more focused charge on your laser. This makes mining go a lot faster. If you have the mag sniper, you can hold down the right trigger to charge up your shot before letting it go. And finally, Starfield is an incredibly customizable game. In the gameplay settings, you can change everything from combat and ship damage to whether ammo has weight to it, to inventory capacity, to how far you have to be away from your ship to transfer inventory items, and so much more. And what's even nicer is that all of this affects your XP gain in the game. If you make the game easier, it'll be harder to gain XP, but if you bump up the challenge, the game rewards you with more XP. And since the XP percentage change is influenced by each individual setting, you can really balance things out if you'd like. For example, I typically always turn off the restrictions for transferring cargo to my ship, but I may crank up the survival settings and come out with an overall harsher difficulty when all is said and done. This is honestly a very underappreciated option for Starfield that was added after release, but it really allows you to tailor the game to your comfort. Character number 2. After you've gotten the main tour of Starfield with your first character, it's time to really start diving in. You've likely got 20 to 30 hours under your belt now, and you might be underwhelmed, or you might be overwhelmed, but you're going to start finding your groove with this second character. At this point, if you feel confident enough, you can go off and start speccing your own characters and tackling all the content in the game, but I still recommend following this guide, as the next two characters are really hitting on what Starfield does best. That doesn't mean you don't get any choice, however. In fact, if you're still following this guide, you get two choices. You can create either a pirate with aspirations to join the Crimson Fleet, or a hopeful UC Vanguard recruit that is looking to get their UC citizenship. These two faction quests are, in my opinion, the best of all the faction quests by a pretty wide margin, and they both focus on combat, which is Starfield's strongest system. Hopefully by this point you've gotten a good feel for the kinds of weapons you prefer, which can help you spec into your background and starting traits. Both Crimson Fleet and UC Vanguard are big on ballistic weapons, so I recommend speccing into those for these characters. But you don't have to. You can use whatever weapons you find and aren't limited to faction weapons. For a pirate, investing in lockpicking early on is going to be very advantageous. For a United Colony soldier, medicine will definitely have its benefits. For either of these characters, pilot skills are a must. Not only are the quest lines for these factions great, but they also provide some awesome rewards. The UC Vanguard gives you access to the Flight Simulator, which gives you experience with space combat, credits, a fast track to UC citizenship, and a way to level piloting skills safely. If you were turned off by the somewhat sterile nature of the Constellation questline, the Crimson Fleet questline has some edge to it. Crimson Fleet rewards are also quite good, with big money, great weapons, and it opens up ship vendors that will help you be a better pirate by giving you access to special ship parts to smuggle contraband. So to break it down, whether you pick pirate or soldier, you're going to A. treat the faction quest as this character's main quest and largely ignore the Constellation quest, and B. only do content that would make sense for that character. If you're a pirate, you're looking out only for yourself and what's going to make you rich. You're robbing folks in space, you're stealing, cheating, lying, anything that benefits you and yours. If you're a soldier, you're going to aid those in need and do what's right, not for the credits, but for justice. But also, maybe you turn crooked and there's some lines that you will cross for a price. Or stay altruistic and be a superhero. Choice is yours. After you finish the faction quests, feel free to keep playing as this character if you feel like it. If you're ready to move on, here's what you should do for your next character. Character number 3. Do the opposite of what you did for character 2. So, if you were a pirate, now you're a soldier. If you were a soldier, now you're a pirate. It may sound like a cop-out, but seeing the other side of the conflict directly after you just played through it is very interesting. Plus, both of these quests should be played by everyone who plays this game anyway. When speccing this character, you can start to play around a little bit with what skills you'd like to start with. Maybe that's using a different weapon type or looking at other skills like research to help you craft better gear. Character number 4. By now, you should have about 50 to 70 hours logged into Starfield. At this point, you've either had your fill, or you're hooked and ready to get into the nitty-gritty of what the game has to offer. Either way, I hope that, at this point, you at least feel like you've gotten your money's worth. From here on out, you make the call as to what you want to do or see in the game. You still have plenty of content to explore, and you'll have a good chunk of experience with all the game systems under your belt to dive in further. Here are some suggestions you can run with if you're stricken with choice paralysis. A Freestar Collective Ranger that focuses on ballistic weapons, or only weapons manufactured on Aquila. With this character, you can tackle the Freestar Collective questline, as well as do all the stuff around Aquila City. And when you're done rootin' and tootin' with all of that, you can join the Trackers Alliance, which is also based in Aquila City, and become a space patrolling bounty hunter. Trackers Alliance is technically a paid mod, although it is free to start, so keep that in mind. A neon street rat character that specializes in stealth, using only blades and silenced pistols. You can take on the Ryujin Industries questline and explore all the content that the cyberpunk city of Neon has to offer. An exploration character, whose main focus is to completely survey every planet in the game. I have one of these characters, and it's by far my favorite character. It's the one I've spent the most time with, and with a goal like 100%ing every planet, you'll have plenty to do for years. This is also a good way to discover some of the game's more hidden content. An outpost builder that constructs an empire on gathering resources and crafting components for sale. There are actually quests in the game that ask for an absurd amount of resources. I only recommend this if you're pretty deep into the game and like stuff like Factorio. A morally gray devout follower of the Great Serpent that makes a pilgrimage to the planet of Varun Kai via the Shattered Space DLC and returns to the settled systems with advanced weapons and armor to spread the word of the Varun. All hail the Great Serpent. A Martian miner focused on crafting, upgrading weapons, and building different ships to haul cargo for the Trade Authority. While my hopes for being a space trucker in Starfield were deflated by the lack of a dynamic economy, this is at least good enough for one playthrough. Starfield is far from a perfect game, and I actually agree with a lot of the 7 out of 10 Starfield got on launch, but how much fun I have with a game doesn't rest solely on what the Metacritic score is, nor do I let the hate of others dictate what I like. Starfield is a fun game with tons of stuff to do and see. It's not a non-stop thrill ride, it doesn't have the humor of Fallout or the lore of Elder Scrolls, it doesn't have the visuals or grittiness of Cyberpunk, and that's okay. Starfield is its own thing, with unique systems that no other game really does quite the same. It's only gotten better since launch, and I hope they continue to produce more content for it because I think there's so much more potential here. And spread it among several characters. Let me know down in the comments where you're starting at in your Starfield journey. Did you play it and hate the game before? If so, how did you approach it? Have you tried this approach? And if you did, how did it work out for you? I'd love to hear your updates. I love to see how people tackle this game, explore and discover all the things, the secrets, the quests, the loot, the points of interest. You know, finding stuff for the first time. It really is special in that way. Until next time, this is Lex.
I just got out of King County Jail, and I've got the socks to fucking prove it. Yeah, I stole these. Fuck them. They didn't say I couldn't have them. No doubt many of you already know the basics of what happened to me over May Day weekend because I have posted about it. I posted photos. I put stuff on Instagram, and I just released a little short the other day. But in this video, I want to go through in totality what happened, and I'm going to do that by reading a statement that I'm going to be sending and broadcasting everyone. I'm doing this because I want my fucking camera back. I want my data, and I want to show everybody what actually happened. I don't want people to read the tiny blurb in the Seattle Times talking about how a motorcycle was arrested for doing wheelies on a sidewalk, which didn't happen, and then another motorcycle was arrested for eluding, which without having a charge of eluding what? Eluding what didn't happen. And this is important because I was jailed for operating in a peacekeeping traffic safety capacity, and so was my friend. And although I went to jail, she, who was a minor, a trans minor, was attacked by the cops, beaten, her head slammed into the ground, and SPD is now trying to cover it up. I have evidence from an investigation I have been doing and holding back on because I've been waiting to get all of the facts, but I am just going to release what I have right now because it proves the reason why we were attacked, which was that it was a targeted attack against me specifically, and my poor friend was just collateral fucking damage. So this video is to inform people of what actually happened in order to build a pressure campaign to get my camera, my memory card back. Same thing with my friend. They stole her Insta360, which has evidence of the things I am going to tell you in this video. I want to file complaints against all of these officers, and I want to sue the Seattle Police Department and force them to change their policies, change how they operate with our community in these peaceful demonstrations where they are constantly doing violence. Longtime Squid Tips enjoyers will know I have already been through this ringer before with the King County Sheriff's Department back in 2017 when an off-duty detective drew a fucking gun on me for speeding for no reason because he was just being a fucking prick. Just like that detective escalated to additional force because I was a biker because he saw me as this insane threat just because I was riding a motorcycle fast. That's exactly what SPD is doing. This is bias-based policing. It's going to be very easy to prove once this video is out, and that is why I am kind of ignoring the standard legal concerns, which I want to acknowledge. I'm sure lots of people will leave them down in the comments. Thank you for your concerns of my legal and that I should maybe be quiet and not give...
Am I being detained or am I free to go? And if detained, what do you say? I invoke the fifth. And then what do? You shut the fuck up.
No, we live in a different world now. I feel confident I'm going to win in the court downtown Seattle. But even if I don't, I'm really less concerned about that. I want to win in the court of public opinion because we need to build a grassroots movement that is going to force change on these paramilitary groups stealing our fucking tax dollars in order to oppress us. What is unique about me is I have been the tip of the spear in Seattle. I've spent a lot of time at all these different rallies and marches. When I tell you that SPD is corrupt, when I tell you that it is a violent paramilitary organization that is filled with right-wing extremists, I'm not telling you this from a position of, hey, I'm reading a lot of news articles and having a problem. I'm telling you this from personal experience. This video is actually going to be kind of a midway point in my investigation because you can go back and I will provide links in the description where you can see the other videos of SPD openly working with people like Jonathan Cho in order to arrest activists, protesters that he physically battered on video and was never held accountable. What this video is going to really lay out is that SPD operates like a mob inside of this city, extorting the community for protection money. We need our fucking money back so that we can build real systems to protect and uplift the community in ways like me and my motorcycle crew are doing without shooting or beating anybody. Last thing, I want to thank all of the people who stopped and recorded and took pictures and video and documented this, because right now, like I said, I don't have my camera. I don't have my memory card. I can't prove what I'm saying here, but I can prove certain aspects of it, really, really important aspects that bolster my claim that this was a targeted attack for vengeance for what I have been doing to expose SPD's corruption, dishonesty, violence, abuse. One of the biggest ones is photos of cops on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter. They took a bunch of photos of me. They recorded their Insta 360, gave me that video so that I could make sure my statement lined up and was accurate, because I just want things to be factually accurate. Weird, right? The cops don't give a fuck about telling the truth, but I do. And there's a lot more people I want to thank and are supporting me in the background, but I just don't want to do it quite yet, as we get farther down the line. But I have been very heartened and very bolstered by the people coming out of the woodwork offering to help me out with this. So thanks so much. Let's fucking go. All right, I'm going to start reading my statement, and I'm going to say sidebar when something is not in my statement. I just want to add some color and context for you, the video viewer. This statement was prepared over 5/2/5/5/2026 without reviewing the GoPro footage from my helmet, which captured the arrest and events that led up to it. I was told that it's being held as evidence, and I wasn't going to be allowed to access it or the data contained on the memory card. Sidebar. This is important for two reasons. One, it's obviously frustrating to not be able to post that video footage. That card is mine. That data is my data. If they need the data, great. Copy it and give me my shit back. But that would only help me and my case in this situation. No, the cops don't want to help me. In fact, they want to extend this as long as possible, right? To reduce the amount of built up anger and frustration, because people are fucking pissed right now. If I show this video, I promise you, people are gonna be really fucking pissed. And two, it impacts my ability to keep doing this work, to record the police by taking my camera, by taking my resources to do that. But don't worry, I already went out and bought a brand new camera because I do not ride without recording, period, for shit just like this. So that $650 I spent, don't worry, I'm gonna be looking for that on the back end from SPD. My name is Alexander James Randall. I go by AJ. I've been riding motorcycles for almost 20 years. I have a motorcycle racing license. I am in the process of becoming a motorcycle instructor for Washington State. I started a YouTube channel in 2017 to teach motorcycle riding techniques for free to anyone with an internet connection. Through that, I have made many motorcycle riding friends throughout the greater Seattle area, and lots of them are trans, which is what led me to becoming active in community actions such as protests, rallies, and marches like the one I participated in on 5/1/2026, just as I did 5/1/2025. First, I will summarize what brought me to being at the front of the march downtown Seattle, May Day 2026, which is highly relevant to the context that led to my interaction with SPD and their dishonest claims of reckless driving. First, we need to establish what corking is. Corking is a harm reduction strategy for motorcycles that I learned watching other motorcycle and bicycle riders during marches, one of which linked me to a website which explained the process in detail. It's called corkthestreets.com. Sidebar, it was actually created by Portland corkers who experienced a murder right in front of them when they stopped a violent right-wing agitator from threatening a march in their area. I've talked about this in multiple videos, and I'll go ahead and link them both in the description, and you'll probably see some things up in the top, whatever here. Back to the statement. Corking safely redirects traffic around vulnerable bodies to hold space for others to amplify and uplift their voices. A corker achieves this by using their body, vehicle, and skills to protect crowds from traffic hazards as they move through the streets. Corkers often encounter confused or negligent motorists, violent agitators, and police who threaten state-sanctioned violence. Corkers in cars and on motorcycles cover or remove their license plates to avoid doxing by hostile outsiders and to avoid tracking from ALPR cameras. Corkers are not attempting to evade identification by police with these tactics, as cops can simply walk over to our vehicles and uncover plates or check the VIN if desired. Sidebar, I wear the exact same gear all the time. I wear my giant, obvious skull helmet, and I was wearing my my custom race suit on this day. Like, Corkers are not attempting to be completely invisible, this Antifa black bloc. Like, we are quite visible, quite obvious. If the cops ever really needed to track us down, it would be very easy. This is exactly why this hyper-aggressive, violent policing was totally unnecessary. And then there is no excuse to be like, oh, all these Antifa biker people are totally anonymous. We just have to take them down because otherwise we'd never be able to. No. They could have just talked to us. They could have just stopped and talked to us. Even without a plate, cops can look at the VIN on a motorcycle. They could take a quick photo, and they could go look up whatever they're concerned it's stolen. They're concerned that he's doing something really bad and they want to follow up. Very easy to do. But those ALPR systems, tracking systems, those can give people tickets. We've had people get tickets from them for being like red light shit, you know, as the march is going. So we block the place just to make sure it doesn't happen and to prevent right-wing doxers like Jonathan Cho, who again work directly with SPD, have access to SPD officers, are encouraged and supported by people like Mike Solon, the guild leader, who had him on his little podcast to pump him up. Yeah, I do not trust that Jonathan Cho does not have access to cops who will run my plate for him. Fix the corruption, and then maybe we'll start talking.
My job as the union head here in the Seattle Police Officers Guild, elected by officers and sergeants, is to defend the contract. That contract has been the focus of activists for decades, to try to improve the language to benefit them. Therefore, try to remove some of the rights against cops. My job is to defend that and push back on the activists, and obviously fundamentally be sound with the membership, because they paid. Dues into the union, and I advocate for them. They elect me to speak on their behalf and do all those things to solve all the problems. And I love doing it. Cops are there to enforce the law and back each other up. It's the badge we wear. Hey, welcome back to Hold the Line with Mike Solins. Jonathan Cho is in studio.
What you talked about, the defund the police movement, this failed social experiment, along with the aftermath, the impact of the social justice protests slash BLM a couple summers ago, and I have yet to really see a proper analysis, the post-mortem of ultimately the impact of what the defund movement and the social justice protests, have done really to this city, especially the violent anarchists, the Antifa folks just trashing this city.
Back to the statement. Corkers wear high visibility vests or other visibility assisting gear to ensure that they are seen by inbound traffic and help the community understand that we are performing a traffic safety role. Yeah, my crew was out there wearing visibility and safety gear. The cops were not in this day, and maybe that's why one of the motorcycle cops actually hit a car and caused a collision while he was doing his version of the traffic safety. Again, these cops are incompetent at this, which is why we do not trust them to do it. Back into the statement. I have made videos talking about and teaching other motorcycle riders how to cork safely, and many of my friends began coming with me to assist corking marches. In the last year, I have corked for at least 10 plus marches, including the No Kings event on 3/28, 28/26, alongside SPD. While corking for these marches, I have had dozens of interactions with Seattle Police Department officers, motorcycle units, and Poet, none of which ever threatened to attack or arrest me for performing this role or anything I did while doing it. Breaking out of my statement, that is some of the precursor context to understand that if SPD had any issues with what I was doing, they could have had a casual conversation. But that's not what they were interested in doing. They wanted to attack me. They wanted to stop me, and they wanted to stop my crew. This is COINTELPRO shit. That's what I'm getting at. And we're going to get deeper into that now with the rest of the statement, which is about the event itself. On 5/21/2026, I arrived at Cal Anderson at approximately 12 p.m. to have planning discussions for how we were going to safely cork the streets with other corkers and safety teams. One of the people who came to assist in corking was a young trans girl who I knew as Jay, and she was riding some sort of electric bicycle. Sidebar, I don't know these electric bikes. There's a million of these things now. Our laws do not account for them. Another excuse I expect SPD to use is like, it looked like a motorcycle. Well, I can tell you very clearly, it doesn't look anything like my Zero. My Zero is probably 100 or 200 pounds heavier than the bike that Jay was on, which is clearly one of these like tiny little mountain bikes with a fucking electric engine. And she wasn't doing anything that I saw that looked dangerous. Back to the statement. Nothing I noticed was unusual about SPD's posture leading up to the march. In my experience, they are never involved in the organizer or traffic safety meetings for the marches, so their protection never aligns with our safety strategies. And when we've made the mistake of trusting them to protect a street egress, they have often failed. During this day, none of the cops I ran into around the rally area or during the march communicated issues with the safety of our corking prior to them attacking us at the convention center. Sidebar, this is important to emphasize because this is what I mean, that it was a targeted attack against me. They did not arrest anybody other than me and Jay. I did not have any conversations with cops prior to the moment they attacked me and Jay to say like, hey, you're doing this thing, stop doing that, blah, 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 blah. Like nothing. The cops did the same stone gargoyle bullshit. I asked them a handful of questions on video like I always do. And then this came out of nowhere. Starting around 1:45 p.m., the march began moving, and I began corking the streets along with dozens of other motorcycles, bicycles, and scooters. As the march moved west onto Pine Street, I used my motorcycle to cork the streets several times, corking next to police cars and motorcycles without an issue. I was later informed by Jay that some of the SPD officers had harassed her while corking, saying things such as, "What's a bicycle gonna do against a car? Who's gonna win? A bike can't stop a car." Jay informed me that she followed the instructions we provide to all corkers, which is to just ignore any antagonism from SPD. Sidebar, these cops were bullying a trans child as part of this. Like, imagine you are standing on the side of the road, you see some cops there, you see this kid with her bike, and the cops are sitting there saying shit like, talking shit to her. Like, would you trust the cops in your community if you perceive that? Does it look like professionalism? And I just want to step back and remind you that these people start at $120,000 fucking dollars a year. They make as much as seasoned technical professionals in my industry to be bullies in our fucking streets. This is also another indicator that Jay was being targeted by these people. Returning to the statement. At approximately 2:30 p.m., me and some others on the corking safety group moved to secure the intersection of Pine and 8th for the march. I rode my motorcycle from Pine Street and 8th to Pike Street and 8th in order to secure that intersection and reroute traffic. I saw that there was an SPD cruiser already at the intersection, but I watched a car drive past it down 8th towards the march. Seeing this security failure, I positioned my bike at the entrance of 8th between the curb and the police cruiser in order to block any further car traffic from passing. Sidebar, this is exactly the type of shit I mean when I say that they don't do a very good job. The cops are extremely lazy. Back to the statement. I dismounted my motorcycle and began rerouting car traffic down towards 8th from Convention Center Place and Pike, down Pike Street to the northeast. I then turned around to observe the intersection of Pine and 8th to watch for marchers and called out over my radio for support from the corking team. I then observed approximately 15 bicycle cops leisurely riding west on Pike Street. Seeing them, I made a casual comment designed to break the ice with the officers, specifically what, I don't remember. And after After doing so, several surged forward with their bikes, rapidly dismounting, then diving onto Jay. I was in shock seeing them slam what I estimate to be a thin 140-pound body to the ground with the force of a 200-pound man landing on top of her. It was so unexpected and so unnecessary that I began yelling at all of the SPD officers things like, "What are you doing? What is wrong with you? Get off of her. That is a child you are beating." Sidebar. Part of the reason I'm so angry is because I know exactly what it feels like to be tackled by multiple 200-pound men. I played football when I was like $140, $152 in high school at certain points. And I was never tackled though onto fucking concrete. Even in a helmet, that shit gives football players brain damage. Back to the statement. No SPD officers acknowledged what I was saying or stopped attacking Jay, which made me believe that they were looking for excuses to use similar levels of force onto me, if not potentially looking to escalate to lethal force. They repeatedly kept asking for my ID, which I kept telling them, if I have it, it's in my bag. They kept insisting that I should go into my bag and get it, but I was so uncomfortable doing that with their aggressive posture, so I yelled at them eventually. "I have been the victim of police violence many times. You have drawn guns on me before. I do not trust you. Look at what you're doing to that girl. Look at my hands fucking shaking right now." I specifically stated my discomfort with one of the officers right in front of me who appeared to have his hand right in a position to draw his gun. At that, the officer suggested I should just remove my helmet and relax, and I told them I prefer to leave it on. Sidebar. We're now about to get into the background details of an investigation I've been working on but haven't talked about publicly yet. This investigation is the primary reason I believe I was targeted for attack. Back to the statement. The reason I preferred to leave my helmet on was to protect my head in the event SPD decided to escalate force, and to document the incident on a camera system that was owned by me and not SPD, who I have an active request to retrieve body cam footage from an incident involving one of their officers on the bicycle cop squad that attacked me and Jay, but has been delayed for months. The call for reference is 26-49715. I welcome anybody to look into this. On 2/20/2026, I observed what turned to be out an unmarked SPD vehicle Officer Rollins was in, driving dangerously on Aurora Avenue, using the bus lane to pass and ignoring right turn only signals on the street. I safely proceeded through several red lights to create the distance between myself and an erratically driving vehicle, which turned out to be the SPD unmarked pickup, where I was then detained and handcuffed by Rollins and other officers, but was released without a citation after disclosing that I caught their dangerous driving on film, and Officer Rollins openly admitting to supporting ICE. Sidebar. I'm going to expand on this because this doesn't even really hit what this experience was like. And again, I am actively trying to get this body cam footage, but it is currently being withheld from me in order to prevent this accountability. That's my belief. I have footage of the car driving dangerously, breaking traffic laws, not using lights and sirens. To me, I really was not sure. It looked kind of like it might be an unmarked, but there are gigantic darked out trucks on Aurora all the fucking time. And in my experience, those people are some of the most dangerous, reckless drivers who often seem to have a fucking problem with smaller vehicles like motorcycles. So I look to get the fuck away from those people utilizing my skill set. We both stopped at the red light, but I just treated the next series of red lights as like blinking reds. You know, just look left and right. Pretty simple. It was like 10 p.m. on a Friday night. If they were a cop, I figured they would have tried to pull me over after the very first one, but they didn't. So after I got like a half mile of distance away, I saw like a pop-up taco place in an O'Reilly's on Aurora. I stopped to get a taco before I was going to finish going home, and not 60 seconds later, like right after I took my fucking helmet and turned my camera off, that truck pulls in another cop car, and out comes Officer Rollins, totally fucking aggravated. He immediately puts me in handcuffs. I ask him, why am I getting put in handcuffs? He says, reckless driving. And for which I proceeded to tell him, oh yeah, that was reckless driving. I watched you drive, motherfucker. And I disclosed to him that I saw the way he was driving, and that looked fucking dangerous to me. And I told him, oh, you don't have to use your lights and sirens for that? And he shook his head and said, no, I don't have to do that. Maybe that is policy, but that doesn't make it safe. SPD has a massive history of being incredibly reckless, dangerous fucking drivers. I made a video about the killing of John V. Kondula by Officer Kevin Dave, where he slammed his fucking cruiser into her in the middle of a crosswalk downtown. He was going 75 fucking miles an hour and at 25. I looked at both the officers and I said, there is not a goddamn thing that I did that was dangerous to anybody other than myself, unlike what they were doing. I told them it was a bullshit waste of their time and resources to pull over people like me. I told them that I help the community with ICE, I document, I look to protect the community from ICE, and that it is fucked up that they refused to even do that. To which Officer Rollins looked right at me and said, I support ICE. Got that on body cam, motherfucker. Multiple body cams. What happened next, I don't think he expected, because I started screaming at him. Things like, I can't believe you fucking support those motherfuckers, those violent murderers of American citizens, killing people in fucking detention. Fuck you. Then they spent about 10 minutes looking up my information, and then a small, short little lieutenant guy, bald-haired guy, he came up, he was a lot more conciliatory, and he said, excuse me, sir, if you had anything to drink tonight? And I said, no, fuck you. And actually, I don't like the way these questions are going, so I think I'm gonna shut my fucking mouth. And he said, you know what? That's your right, sir. And he pulled Officer Rollins over, and they went over to my bike around the corner, had a little fucking chat. And by the time they came back, Officer Rollins pulled me out of handcuffs and said, you know what, sir? We do have better things to do tonight. And then the other guy, Freiler, who's actually seemed like a pretty nice guy, he was like, hey, look out for a ticket, though, in the mail. Because it was unclear to me whether I was getting a citation. They didn't hand me any piece of paper. But you know what? I never got anything. So what does that tell you? That is the investigation I've been working on. That is what I've been trying to put on this channel. And that is what they are delaying now. They said they were going to give me the evidence like 4/18, but no. They said now they have punted that back to fucking June. I'm now going to return to the statement which talks about the next thing I did. On 2/26/2026, I completed a public records request for all records related to this incident, including written reports, photos taken, body cam footage, and footage from each police vehicle involved in the incident from 10 minutes prior to the stop. On 4/3/2026, I received a heavily redacted CAD document that allowed me to identify Officer Rollins from a social media post that showed Rollins throwing a handcuffed 58-year-old man to the ground while in SPD detention. Sidebar. The documentation they gave me is so over-redacted with the intent of, again, preventing me from proving the targeted, selected, biased bullshit. Because before the interaction, I guarantee you, they were talking mad fucking shit. But afterward, they were looking to bury this entire incident. Oh, and yeah, you want to see Officer Rollins? This is what Officer Rollins looks like. And yeah, this is him just kind of chucking a 50-year-old man down on the ground in the detention that I later spent some time in. Back to this. The targeted, selected, biased bullshit. Because before the interaction, I guarantee you, they were talking mad fucking shit. But afterward, they were looking to bury this entire incident. Oh, and yeah, you want to see Officer Rollins? This is what Officer Rollins looks like. And yeah, this is him just kind of chucking a 50-year-old man down on the ground in the detention that I later spent some time in. Back to the statement. On 4/21/2026, I was told to expect the next installment of records on 6/18/2026 without the promise of if it will finally provide the body cam footage that I am looking for. So on 4/24/2026, I filed an OPA complaint against Officer Rollins for dangerous driving, aggressive, biased policing, and SPD for blocking my access to records that would assist me in proving all of these facts. Sidebar. OPA is the Office for Police Accountability. It's a theoretical oversight, and I'm going to be totally real, that nothing has ever come out of this that actually changed anything SPD does. This is like the broken feedback loop in this entire process, because no matter what fucking happens, no matter what these SPD officers do, at the end of the day, whatever recommendations OPA comes up with, Chief of Police gets to do whatever the fuck they want. And guys like this always get a slap on the fucking wrist. Nobody cares. I know people get frustrated about complaining that like all cops are bastards or all policing, but it's like, this is it. The bad apples are never, ever removed. The shitty abusers, violent motherfuckers are never pulled out of these systems. That is why it is all fucked and all has to go. Without a feedback loop to stop the most aggressive, violent, bad people abusing their power and privilege as a government employee who is given a gun and permission to do state violence, there is no justice system. Period. Period. Eventually, the SPD officers around me pulled their hands away from their guns, and I searched my bag, but I didn't find anything other than stickers and a GoPro battery. I removed the stickers and threw them to the ground in order to... Open the bag and clearly show that there was nothing hiding, my Washington driver's license or a weapon, and then offered to use my phone to retrieve my driver's license number. They said that was acceptable, so I grabbed my phone and spoke to them out loud. While they were checking my information, I poked my head up and looked around at the officers and realized one of them was Officer Rollins. I yelled this out, not just to ensure that all of their body cams caught this fact, but to make sure that bystanders that were observing and recording the incident could too, because that was when I realized that this was extremely likely to be a targeted attack against me in retribution for that complaint, or the many other critiques I have laid against SPD publicly, and that they may destroy or hold my camera indefinitely. As I yelled this, I pointed right at Officer Rollins, which triggered all of the other SPD officers to suddenly force my hands into cuffs. I responded, "Oh no, that's the guy who put my hands into cuffs for no reason, and now you're gonna put my hands into cuffs again for pointing that out." Sidebar, I can actually show you this exact moment because photos of cops got it on their video camera. So here you will see this exact example of me pointing him out, and then what appears to be the justification they used to handcuff and then arrest me and send me to jail. A reckless driving charge, especially with someone who doesn't have warrants or anything, is totally unnecessary to cuff that person or send them to jail. Not required. Reckless driving is a civil misdemeanor. It is not a violent crime. Back to the statement. In response to no longer being able to protect my phone, I asked, "Can I put my phone in my bag so you don't break it, please?" While handcuffed and positioned at the SPD cruiser, the officers searched my person, finding headphones, stickers, a waist bag, and a GoPro battery. The officers then told me that they were going to remove my helmet, and I asked them if they knew how, to which one replied yes, and I said, "Okay, well then you can do it." They proceeded to remove my helmet and place it on the hood of the SPD transport van, which I told them made me uncomfortable because it looked like it was on the verge of falling off the extremely angled SPD transport van hood, potentially breaking it, or my camera, or both. We had a minute or so of conversation about impounding my bike, and they told me that if I called a friend to pick it up or if I pointed someone specifically out in the crowd, they could take it for me. I told them that someone from the march would handle it and that I wasn't concerned, but they told me that if I didn't give them someone specific to pick it up, they would impound it. I said, do what you gotta do. Sidebar, this very much felt like an intentional trap, trying to get me to, pick out somebody else this is how they get you to do the collective punishment. This is how they just arrest and ticket more people. And I just wasn't want to play that game. Lots of people knew who I was. I knew that the bike was going to be fine and someone would figure it out. Back at the statement, I was informed by an officer that my GoPro was running, and they asked if they could turn it off, to which I replied, I would prefer if you leave it running, but was told in the middle of making that statement that I couldn't leave it on and that they were going to turn it off. And I said, that's fine, just making it clear what my preference is. I can't stop you. It was confusing why this was framed as a choice to me, but felt like another attempt to impact my ability to independently document the incident. I said, I've been trying to get body cameras since SPD Officer Rollins put me in handcuffs too. It's gonna take 4 months to do that. To which a photographer near me replied, I'll give you mine. An officer informed me that someone was gonna handle taking my bike, to which I replied, sick. I said, am I gonna mugshot? That'd be awesome. I'd love a souvenir. They came through with that one. Eventually, SPD moved me forward towards the rear of the van next to Jay. I asked her, are you okay? And I told her, I'm sorry that happened to you. She was then put into the van. Sidebar. I'm not going to tell Jay's story. I'm going to hope some other people help me with that because my hands are fucking full. But I do want to emphasize some of the things she told me that happened while I was surrounded by cops and trying to get them to stop, which is that they, after tackling her to the ground, slammed her head into the concrete, and as they're fumbling with their hands to put them into cuffs, as they often do, cops are trained to do this, by the way, they scream things like, stop resisting, we're gonna fucking punch you in the head, we will kick you. They threatened a bunch of additional violence to her, of which she wasn't resisting or doing anything at all. She went totally limp. After they took her helmet off, they slammed her head into the ground again. Jay got what I call the Antifa treatment, where if you appear like somebody who is a hardened activist, the SPD police will use additional aggression, additional violence against you because they want to punish you for being an activist, and they want to dox you, and they want to give that and feed all of that to Jonathan Cho and these right-wing influencers who feed that back up to the administration and news organizations in order to perpetuate propaganda that there are like Antifa cells destroying and burning the city, rather than being peacekeepers like we actually fucking are.
Thank you. Mr. President, thank you again. My name's Jonathan Cho. I am an investigative reporter for Frontlines Turning Point USA. I'm also a senior fellow at Discovery Institute in Seattle. Is a report from a Capital Research Center here in D.C. in conjunction with Discovery Institute. And what it shows is that Antifa is heavily embedded in the homeless and housing nonprofit sector. In many cases, the homeless industrial complex is running cover for Antifa. Antifa is benefiting from American tax dollars, and they're essentially being used as the muscle. Let me give you an example. There's a group called Stop the Sweeps in many U.S. cities right now. They get in front of encampment sweeps. What they're doing quietly is they're bringing in Antifa militants to manufacture a crisis to make the police look bad. Another group right now that is behind Antifa and working with Antifa very closely, based on the research that we have right now that we're going to give to you and your team, are the Democratic Socialists of America, also known as DSA. Again, these far-left progressive groups tend to be aligning themselves with Antifa.
Through this process, I have realized that the amount of police violence I have personally seen and experienced has definitely taken a toll on my mental state. I definitely have PTSD, and the way that most often comes out and expresses is anger. I'm angry. I picked up my bike out of impound and shit. Time kind of slowed down, and I was writing the statement, and it kind of all hit me just how angry I was about all this, how angry I was at watching what the cops did to Jay, at the impotence, the inability to do anything. I wanted to stop them. I wanted to physically push them off. I wanted to do anything, but I couldn't. And I knew if I so much as lifted a fist, did anything aggressive in the same way that just pointing at an officer I have an active complaint with got me put in cuffs and jailed, I knew that if I did anything that even appeared to be aggressive, I was going to get the Antifa treatment too. You know, and that's why when they put me next to her, I felt so fucking angry, but I also felt guilty because she clearly took the beating designed for me. That's what they wanted to do to me, but they couldn't because I wasn't on my bike. They couldn't make up a fucking excuse that I was evading reckless driving or whatever. And you know what? Again, they didn't. They said she was evading. That was their excuse, but they never accused her of any crime other than evading. So you gotta have a crime to evade a crime. You know what I mean? But once you understand that these cops truly do believe in things like Antifa and truly do have a massive violence and hatred for the people that do operate as volunteers and organizers for these types of events, all of this makes way more sense, and it all just very much aligns. You can align it with their PR policy. You can align it with things they say and the way they actually deploy inside of these events. And we'll keep saying it, which is again another reason I'm trying to show and share this information, because I want people to protect themselves. So keep that in mind with the additional details I'm about to mention. Back to the statement. Someone in the crowd asked me what happened, and I told them I was corking and I stopped. I saw bike cops and I said they wouldn't do that. That'd be really fucking stupid to make something of what I'm doing. And they did it anyway. I guess they need good press, and they think that's what's going to do it. I had a conversation with one of the officers that I recognized about seeing him on 5/27/2025 when an anti-queer religious group occupied City Hall for an unpermitted rally, which SPD assisted in setting up protected barriers and blocking the downtown area for them. I also asked what he and the other officer holding me thought about Mike Solon, their former police guild leader, to which they both replied that they basically knew nothing about him. I informed them that surprised me since he was such a public figure. Why every SPD officer I asked about him said they knew nothing. I commented that I followed his podcasts and Fox News appearances where he said highly dishonest and disrespectful things about the Seattle community and Antifa. And the fact that he's on the force is a big reason that I do not trust SPD. Sidebar, because it's highly relevant. This march was not permitted. The place we rallied at in Cal Anderson and the place it ended were both permitted. So SPD could easily make the argument, oh, well, it's unpermitted. That's why we had to be aggressive pieces of shit. Again, you look at the history, doesn't change anything. This is a totally different posture they went for that was far more aggressive. But two, it is an also important context that even in an unpermitted situation, such as when Russell Johnson and Sean Foyt came to town and the whole Mayday crew last year that I was involved in, they occupied City Hall, and instead of SPD kicking them out, treating them very aggressively like they would us if we were the community were to do that, they protected them. They helped set up an entire sound system on City Hall. They created barriers to block us out. They actually operated as private security, only allowing in the people that the Christian nationalists that let into the little concert area there. That is where Jonathan Cho showed up. Jonathan Cho works for the Discovery Institute, which is a Christian extremist funded organization. That's who pays to do his propaganda. So he showed up to make fun of the trans and queer people. And that is where he struck a protester right in front of me who was recording him, where he ran to a cop down the hill in their car, who he then said, that guy attacked me. The cop got out of his car and said, I saw it, arrested the guy Jonathan Cho hit, and then, to my knowledge, nothing ever happened. Jonathan was never held accountable, like he has never been accountable to anything he has ever done.
Hey man, you wanna fucking find out? This guy just assaulted this guy. See that? He just hit that guy with a fucking stick.
Keep the guy right there.
How convenient. How fucking convenient. How convenient. That guy got fucking hit. That guy was hit by that guy.
He assaulted me.
Holy shit.
Doing my job, turning.
Jonathan Cho is a fucking liar. Oh, wow. You okay, man? He got it on video. You okay, man?
I saw you push into him.
Look at his face. He got fucking hit by that guy. Y'all are such fucking chuds. Holy shit.
And developing right now, dueling protests and more arrests as a Christian rally draws counter-protesters to the heart of downtown Seattle.
They're occupying my city hall, and I, as a Seattle person, cannot be here. My tax dollars are going to protecting this movement. That's why I'm here. I'm enraged that I'm paying for it with my tax money. And I'm enraged that it feels to me like City Hall is actively, this is an apology for what happened on Saturday. Please don't be mad at us Christian nationalists, Christian fascists.
This is the collusion that I have exposed that has never been acknowledged or handled by SPD. This is the evidence where Mike Solon, their guild leader, talking to Jonathan Cho, having him on his podcast, explaining how great his journalism, how much he supports him, how much of they are interconnected, because Jonathan Cho and Cam Higbee and Katie Davis Court and Brandy Cruz and all these other people that, again, were on Mike Solon's podcast. These are propagandists, overt right-wing propagandists. The top is corrupted, and it has seeped into the entire department, and experiences like what happened to me and my poor young trans friend Jay, this is how that expresses, this is how that becomes violence. Mike Solon and Jonathan Cho and lots of SPD officers hate the Seattle community. They do not live in Seattle. They do not think of them as part of us. They are their own thing in our community, enforcing specific ideologies and laws. I am sorry, but it does not get more obvious and clear. When I talk about SPD being a mob, I am talking about their inability, their lack of desire of talking about Mike Solon. It is very, very clear. I've talked to a dozen officers about him now, and all of them say literally nothing. Like the guy's just never, I don't know. One cop actually even told me that he doesn't even watch TV or the news or anything.
Hey, can I ask you another weird question? Yeah. What do you think about Mike Solon?
I don't know him.
He's your guild leader. He was your guild leader, not anymore, obviously.
I don't know him though.
Have you ever seen like the shitty, like, what do you go on Fox News and stuff? Like, was he ever involved with y'all, or he just did the? You don't watch the news? Is that what you said? No. Any news?
I deal with enough stuff at work.
Ah, okay. I yeah, okay. You don't watch like local news, like? Okay. So how did you? Was your interaction with him was just like he just negotiated your guild shit?
Just a name that is our guild president. That's
interesting.
Would you believe this? Because I fucking don't. Nothing exposes their dishonesty, their lack of engaging in a good faith way with the community than the lack of acknowledging what Mike Solon does, his influence, and how they are all clearly in support of it. This video and these conversations to me should be enough to do a very deep, significant investigation into SPD by someone other than SPD. Back to my statement. I informed several surrounding officers like Mattson of my active OPA complaint against Officer Rollins and my frustration at SPD for blocking my access to the body cam video of that interaction to prevent me from publishing it on my YouTube channel and creating public outcry for accountability. I mentioned several times that I was being quoted 4 months for that footage, my frustration at the delayed release, and that I expected the exact same treatment around releasing body cam video of this incident. As I was being loaded into the SPD transport van, I asked what qualified my driving as reckless, but got no response from officers, and also got no response in asking for reasons why they wouldn't talk to me about it. At no point was it made clear to me what behaviors I exhibited which justified being handcuffed or sent to jail. I made no attempts to evade, escape, or physically resist the actions of SPD. I had no warrants at the time of the arrest, and my understanding of the law is that it's not a requirement to cuff or arrest someone for a traffic misdemeanor, let alone in the context of someone operating in a volunteer public safety capacity. Once loaded into the SPD transport vehicle, I was buckled in, and when the door closed, Jay let me know she was also in the vehicle, but that she was not safely buckled into her seat. So I advised her to use her body to brace and avoid being given a rough ride, as cops call it. A rough ride is where police intentionally do not secure people in the back of their transport vehicles and then drive in dangerous ways in the hopes that they are hurt in the process of being transported, allowing them reasonable deniability of the negative impact. In response to this, an SPD officer said over the communication system, "Just so you know, this is being recorded," to which I responded, "Good. I want to make sure it's documented. You did not safely buckle her in, and it seems like you're trying to give her a rough ride." Sidebar, a rough ride is what Freddie Gray got after the cops tackled and beat his ass. That is what killed him, because the cops will take fast turns and right? Just to give you a picture of what this looked like, the back of the van there was 5 white seats, and it's divided into half. So that's how we didn't see each other. I was in the left half, she was in the right half. When they put me in, they quite gingerly like, hey, sir, let's make sure you got your seatbelt on. All right, you're sitting good. All right, have a great day, buddy. We'll see you down at the county jail. Jay was just chucked in and not seatbelted at all. They did not give a single fuck. I did not see cameras in the back of the van, but again, audio is theoretically being recorded, so I'll have evidence of that in the end. But, you know, maybe the body camera will show that they did that, but like, what's their excuse for not buckling her into the back of this vehicle? What is the sincere legitimate? Are they just too busy? Not enough time when there's 20 motherfuckers around us just standing the fuck around jerking each other off? No, I think it's pretty clear the intent. And we have to stop giving cops the benefit of the doubt because they don't do it for us. Back to the statement. When at holding, I heard SPD officers repeatedly misgender Jay, referring to her as male pronouns like he, guys. And I finally told them, that's a girl. She uses she, her pronouns. I was then separated from all of them and put into a holding cell where I observed SPD conduct a search on her until she was moved into another room out of my vision. Afterward, at 3:04 p.m., I watched the officer conducting the search of Jay's items drop her Insta360 action camera on the concrete floor, potentially destroying it and the card inside. I confirmed the officer was wearing a body camera at the time and was in the zone monitored by a camera. Sidebar. I was highly interested in watching everything that happened. Again, realizing how fucked up this entire situation was. So I stood there with my hands cuffed, observing everything in the evidence room. Lots of people wandering by, very nervous that I was staring at them. And the guy doing evidence just dropped it, just smashed it right on the ground. And I immediately was like, let me note the time. Oh, cool. There's a video camera right here in the evidence room. And I'm pretty sure that guy's body camera was operating. I saw the red light. So there's definitely evidence of that too. Back to the statement. After 20 or so minutes, I was removed from the holding cell and told I was going to King County Jail, then put back into the transport van for transfer. I was informed later by other organizer safety leads that SPD had also harassed organizers while using cars to protect the march, one even grabbing their steering wheel through the driver's side window at one point. To my knowledge, police made no additional arrests other than Jay's and my own. Although my friends made arrangements to secure my bike and the police told me they could handle it, the bike was forcibly impounded anyway. At no point during my arrest, intake to King County Jail, where I was detained until my bail was posted 5 hours later, or release, was the location of my motorcycle at impound provided to me. I paid $1,000 to bail myself out and $493.78 to get my bike out of impound. Sidebar, the only reason I was able to find my bike is because of an AirTag. So if there's any more additional reasons to fucking put one just somewhere on your bike, here's another one. Back to the statement and closing it out. I was not returned my Cardo communications device, which is what I use to talk to other motorcycle riders using a helmet-mounted microphone speaker system, and was told it is being retained with my camera, which was also not returned. On 5/6/2026, I purchased a new GoPro camera for $613.50 to ensure that I am still able to record my rides in the event SPD performs any additional target enforcement actions against me. My arraignment is on 5/12/2026 at 1:30 p.m. at the Seattle Municipal Court. 9th floor. Or 902 600 5th Avenue, Seattle 98104. AJ. Alright, so here's the next step. I am pulling every lever I can to get that video because it's going to prove everything I said. Once I have at least that video, we can start building a public pressure campaign to do something about SPD. And I'm going to be totally honest. I'm kind of off with like defund, and I'm more on the destroy train. After 2020 and the CHOP, George Floyd uprisings, there was so much that came out of it that made it so clear that SPD was a fucking aggressive, dishonest, fucking dangerous paramilitary force operating in this community, and we had a whole bunch of reforms initiated, but in 2022 there was a liberal snapback, a conservative snapback that basically undid all of that shit. And so this time we've learned our fucking lesson. I want to make totally clear what I am accusing SPD of. It is a right-wing extremist organization. SPD has openly said they will not support the community and protect us from ICE, not even documenting it, not even confirming that if there's an ICE arrest happening, that these are real officers and not just some fucking random person pretending to be law enforcement. They won't even do that. They show up to trans and queer events with the specific posture to try to initiate violence. And they have a very clear bias towards motorcycle riders where they treat us like hardened criminals, regardless of what we do. And even though there's literally a fucking anti-motorcycle bias policy in SPD's fucking playbook. I don't just want people fired. I want to take the hundreds of millions of dollars that this organization is stealing, extorting from this community and invested it into shit that actually helps us, that actually prevents crime. Because SPD does not. SPD creates crime, just like they did in this situation. I'm going to be really humble for a second and admit that this is a really big thing I'm trying to do. And there's a lot of risk here to myself and to Jay and to people around me. And I do need lots of help doing this, but I need it in specific ways at specific times. And I do not want to consume resources more than they need to and before they are necessary. I am currently getting help with my arraignment. If you know somebody who wants to help me with legal support in the reckless driving charge or to push for reforms, getting the body cam back from my previous investigation for this, if you want to do any of that, I would love that help. If you want to spread this story by sharing this video, that would be amazing. I'm going to do some interviews and help with certain independent journalists and things, and we can have those conversations. Potentially hit me up, squidtips@pm.me. In the event I do need a legal fund, I will do some sort of GoFundMe or crowdfunding piece. But there is a, kind of ongoing small costs that are coming up: the bail, the camera, the impound, and I don't have a job still. This is still video is still my main bag. So I would love to see more consistent community support. If people want to, I'm not going to stop doing this. If they think that this is going to stop me from going to marches and corking and using my motorcycle, boy, they don't fucking know goddamn shit about me, which is stupid because I've already sued and defeated the King County Sheriff's Department. So it's on them. I am not going to stop fulfilling my community defense role because of this. Fuck that. So I still need consistent support to buy gas, to buy supplies, to pay for the things that I've already had to pay for regarding this. So the more consistent monthly support on Patreon or Ko-fi or whatever is awesome. It helps me rely on it going forward. I am very relieved to say that Jay seems okay. But like me, they are fucking mad about what happened. They want their fucking camera back. And they want consequences for what SPD did to us. So you're going to see more stuff about her on hopefully other channels. Other people are helping me spread and tell that story. And I really ask you to help do that. Really emphasize that. Because as much as jail fucking sucked, like, what happened to her was so much worse. So you know what to do. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, share. Sharing is big. Spreading this information to other activists too. I mean, we are literally living in a world where local cops are taking on the role of fulfilling what the federal government is pushing down. NSPM 7 bullshit, the anti-Antifa domestic terrorist bullshit with Prairie Land. So spread the story around, share it with your comrades who need to know, and until next time, ride fast, take chances.
Right? And we're in this age now where it's about clicks, it's about views, it's about likes. And that's ultimately what gives a lot of journalists now an audience, credibility in some ways, and popularity.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's given you this probably a new lease on professionalism life.
What continues to baffle me, though, is, and I'm not afraid to say it, that I support law enforcement. I have friends within SPD and other law enforcement agencies. This city is standing because of the men and women of SPD.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yes. Last time I checked, public safety is not controversial. It shouldn't be politicized. You have to remove politics out of public safety, period. As well as try to get those that are in media that are extremely biased back to an objective, moderate platform. I think you're doing a great job. Man, again, I want to credit you for what you're doing, right? Where you feel as if you're empowered, you're doing something that actually means something. That's you doing your job as a journalist, I think, really well. Number one, you're doing the job of journalism really well right there. You're holding our public officials accountable. You're doing the job. I didn't hear them answer your questions.
Exactly. And that was the common denominator right there.
What kind of propaganda are you making today, Joe?
Squid tips.
Hey, No, don't fucking touch me, you fascist piece of shit. You belong in a fucking jail cell for what you've done. How did you get out of hitting that guy? I've been wondering how to ask, like, what happened?
Why don't you take off your helmet? You're scared.
No, that doesn't work on me a second time. I can just show him the video the first time and watching you shit your pants.
Yeah, man.
So how'd you get out of hitting that guy?
I don't know what you're talking about.
How'd you get out of hitting that? No, you don't know you didn't what?
You tell everyone to do gay crimes?
What does that mean, gay crime?
You said it. What's a gay crime?
I just want to know how you hit a guy. Is assault a gay crime? Is that what because you assault?
Hey, you find a new job, or are you a professional YouTuber now, full time?
Yeah, well, I made a whole bunch of money doing my cybersecurity job, so I can just kind of hang out and do whatever I want. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I know. My family actually likes me, so I still talk to them.
What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think your wife still doesn't talk to you. I think your daughter doesn't talk to you. You're a pretty miserable fucking guy.
How's your boyfriend, huh? The one with the penis.
No, I know it's fucking hilarious. I know that for you, like, these childish fucking games are, like, really funny. Yeah. Do you want to go back to your house in Bellevue? Sure, let's see your team. Would you like a Fuck Ice sticker? Where are you going? Oh, Cho, you're walking so fast. I'm in all this gear. What the fuck is this guy doing? Bro, I don't want to walk. I'm gonna get my bike. I'm gonna get my bike then. This is so fucking far, dude. Okay. All right.
There's been a lot of talk about a civil war inside MAGA.
We've talked about some fissures that have emerged among conservatives.
Fissures? Yeah, it's sort of blown up.
The administration's top counterterrorism official resigning in protest over President Trump's war with Iran.
Betrayed his campaign promise.
25th Amendment is asked.
Honestly, like the president at 3D chest, fucking shut up about that shit.
That fight might be coming to a head right here in northern Kentucky.
This guy named Thomas Massey. There's something wrong with him.
Representative Thomas Massey has held this seat since 2012, and despite his loyal support for the Republican agenda,
I voted for 91%. 91% of the time.
He's in trouble, big trouble, with President Trump.
Thomas Massey is a disaster for our party.
What's landed him in this fight for political survival? Two issues that have the potential to split the MAGA base: foreign wars and the Epstein files.
It's a hoax that's been built up way beyond proportion.
This is bigger than Watergate.
Major combat operations in Iran.
I don't think we should start another war.
Because of this, Massey is now facing a Trump-endorsed challenger in his campaign for re-election.
This is a real hero, Ed Galrine.
And big money is backing up Trump's attempt to smear Massey. This is officially the most expensive U.S. House primary in history, with over $25.6 million spent on ads.
Where'd that money come from? It didn't come from regular people. It's come from billionaires. At least 95% has come from the Israeli lobby.
But this race isn't just about Massey and Trump. It's a litmus test for the future of the MAGA coalition. So I'm driving around Kentucky to find Trump voters and ask them, what's driving their vote in this primary? Is it loyalty to the president? Or are the cracks in MAGA really starting to form?
Hey, we're down making a video. We're looking to talk to voters about the Republican primary that's coming up. Can we talk to you a little bit about it?
Yeah, okay.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
I voted for Trump this last election.
I've got my Make America Great Again hat at home.
It's nice and refreshing to actually have someone to stand up and say, enough's enough. And so that's why I've been a Trump supporter. And why anybody opposes that, I think you're a traitor to this country.
President Trump laid out the stakes for his base in this election. Are they loyal to him or not? And with his popularity lower than ever, it might be a question of the strength of MAGA as we know it. So we asked Massey about it.
Do you view your race as a fork in the road for the MAGA base?
Well, I think the MAGA base is already split, as you point out. Some have gone with the principles that Trump campaigned on. Some have gone with Trump, even when he's changed his mind on things like Epstein.
Okay, let's dig into Epstein first. For supporters of the president, the promise Trump and company made on this issue was clear.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
We need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
But that urgency from the campaign trail seemed to evaporate once Trump was in office.
I thought it was ridiculous.
John Wardrop voted for Trump in 2024. He told me that the whole Epstein thing was a big reason why.
I thought it was completely ridiculous for the people who had gone on the podcasts, millions and millions of views, and then turning around and calling it a hoax or that there's nothing in here. And I don't know if anyone in this country is going to get arrested for it, but there's only one guy that's really trying, and that's Thomas Massey.
Massey is the co-author of the bipartisan Epstein Files Transparency Act, which he guided through a hostile Republican Congress to force a public release of documents related to the case.
We fought the president, the attorney general, the FBI director, the speaker of the House, and the vice president to get this win.
But now that they're out, how do the voters feel?
You think those files should have been released?
Oh, yeah.
Today?
Yeah.
And you're happy with how Massey's fought
Yes.
for that?
Yes. Okay, the file thing, to me, that's a dead horse, okay? End of story.
I say release it and let the cards fall where they may. You know, who knows? Maybe it might implicate Mr. Trump or President Trump.
The Epstein files, they're not important to me. Everybody and their brother's on it. I mean, what are you going to do?
And I'm certain, Republican and Democrat, a lot of them don't want it released because there's something in there that's going to come back and bite them in the buttocks.
Yeah. But with no new convictions following the release of the files, it seems like the only ones bit in the buttocks are the Republicans who actually followed through on Trump's own campaign promise.
He was extremely angry at me that I had signed the discharge petition.
Stupid people like Marjorie Trader.
I believe he's trying to protect friends and donors.
Perhaps the worst Republican congressman in our history. This stupid person named Massey.
It's typical politician stuff, breaking promises that helped get you elected. But a lot of people voted for Trump because he said he wasn't like your typical politician, and they believed him when he made big promises.
At the top of my list, we'll be stopping the slide into costly and never-ending wars. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that.
When Donald Trump was campaigning, one of his big campaign talking points was no new wars, no foreign wars.
Yeah.
How important was that to you during the campaign?
That was really important. You're going to ask me about Iran next.
Of course.
For a self-described America First peace candidate, the president's second term has been international and violent. And Republicans on the whole have been pretty silent, except for Massey. In January, U.S. military intervention in Venezuela forced a regime change.
The executive's military exercise to capture the leader of Venezuela represents one of the most blatant usurpations of congressional authority we have seen in modern times.
In February, the U.S. and Israel began military engagements in Iran.
Why are we going to war with Iran? This administration can't even give us a straight answer as to why we launched this preemptive war.
Massey's opposition to this war is one of the reasons why the pro-Israel lobby has spent so much against him. The United Democracy Project, a super PAC linked to AIPAC, has spent $2.6 million on anti-Massey ads, and the Republican Jewish Coalition spent $4 million. Another super PAC named MAGA Kentucky, which is backed by 3 pro-Israel mega donors, Miriam Adelson, Paul Singer, and John Paulson, has spent $5.6 million. But what do voters, who were promised no new wars, make of all of this?
How important, when you were voting for him, was that campaign?
It was really important.
Trump is actually
backpedaled.
Yeah.
He's backpedaled.
How did you feel once that campaign promise was broken and now we're in Iran?
Because he's doing what BB tells him to do, and that's AIPAC, and I'm not for that.
It needed to be done for a long time.
Did you also feel that way when Trump was running, promising not to get into wars? Did you feel like, well, even though he's promising this, we do need to go to it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
He's the only person that didn't kick the can down the road, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, they've been doing that for 47 years.
Yeah.
Somebody had to stand up and do something.
That was important to you.
Yeah.
Now we're in Iran. How does that land with you?
I haven't got an opinion on it. It depends how it turns out.
Very conclusive, totally makes sense.
Representative Massey has been the most vocal Republican critic of the administration and his party, and not just on Epstein and foreign conflicts. Where the Trump administration has been pushing for immunity for pesticide manufacturers for the use of potentially cancerous chemicals, Massey has been pushing to hold those companies accountable.
They want get-out-of-court-free cards. We're not going to give it to them.
He voted against Trump's big, beautiful bill.
Well, guess what? It added $2 trillion to the debt. I said it would, and it has.
And he bucked the majority of his party by voting against an extension on legislation that allows the U.S. government to spy on its own citizens.
A short-term infringement of the Constitution is still an infringement of the Constitution.
All of this independence, it's made him vulnerable in this primary race.
Give me somebody with a warm body to beat Massey.
Massey's primary is May 19th. He's up against Ed Gowron, Trump's hand-chosen opponent.
He's a hero. He's a farmer hero.
In a way, the election is a test of the price anyone might pay for going against Trump. Will Massey be punished by voters for disloyalty or rewarded for his independence?
How important is it to have someone who's just loyal to Donald Trump and whatever he says versus putting a check on Donald Trump?
No, definitely putting a check. You should put a check on anybody because there shouldn't be one person to rule the country.
Okay, now, that's a fine line there too. As long as your president is taking care of the country and the people from the country, then I give him 100% support. No matter what.
So, back to the reason I came out here. Which way are these voters leaning?
Is it enough that Trump supports his opponent? Would that do it for you?
No, I don't know that was one way or the other. I'll look at it.
What do you think of Thomas Massey?
I think he's good. I like what he's going for. I'll definitely vote for him.
Are you voting for Ed in this race?
Yes, I am.
And what's behind that? What makes you vote for Ed?
Well, number one, Trump's endorsing him. That helps.
I believe that Thomas Massey was MAGA before MAGA was coined the phrase.
I want a clear thinker. I want somebody to make their own decision, not make a phone call. How should I vote?
So does Massey have your vote?
Massey has my vote.
I talked to a lot of voters on this trip. What I found is that while there are some cracks in the MAGA movement, we don't know where they're going to go yet. And even the people crossing the president's endorsement and voting for Massey don't see it as turning against Trump.
You want more Masseys? Yeah.
Yeah, if we get enough of them, and if maybe a few more Trumps, we can actually get stuff moving.
If that contradiction sounds confusing to you, you have to remember, voting against Trump's preferred candidate is still a big deal, even if the voters I talk to don't see it that way. Up until now, almost all of Trump's endorsed picks have won their primaries. And this isn't just about the voters in the district. Politicians across the country are going to be watching the results of this race closely to find out what are the consequences for standing up to Donald Trump in 2026. Maybe that's why even Massey, the Trump-critical candidate, is campaigning on their similarities and not on their differences. Despite being the target of the president's rage and the receiving end of millions of PAC dollars spent against him,
He's cheating with the squad on the America First movement.
Massey told me he doesn't see much of a problem.
I'm not running against Donald Trump. I'm running against a guy who was endorsed by Donald Trump. People recognize that, and the bulk of my voters in my polling are people who support Trump and support me. I think if I win this race, we can get the team back together. We can get the band back together.
Yeah.
It shows that you can still be for the principles that MAGA ran on.
We'll find out if that's true or not with next week's election results. But this race has got me thinking about a bigger question too. How many broken promises is too many? and which promises are the ones that matter.
Do you think if Donald Trump continues to break campaign promises, that he puts at risk the movement of people who believed?
100%. He risks people, even if he might be right on some things, feeling at least like they were lied to or even worse, betrayed.
Because broken political promises have actual costs.
How's the pain at the pump been lately?
Oh, it sucks, especially with the business we got. And we're trying to start. We started this spring. 3 Amigos Lawn Care. It's me and my 2 brothers, and right now we're behind just because. The gas.
Yeah.
Because when we first was planning it all, the prices weren't here.
Yeah.
So I did vote for Trump, but
Yeah.
Trump here lately, I've been kind of, because everything he's saying ain't really happening, you know? I do call myself a Republican, but who knows, 5 years from now, things might change.
Smash like and subscribe to More Perfect Union like Phil right here. Right, Phil?
Yeah.
And if you liked what was in this video, you can leave story ideas in the comments. You can tag us on Twitter like Phil here.
Sam Cedar, Emma Vigland on the Majority Report. Want to welcome to the program Nicholas Heinrich, former civil servant, worked at USAID under 4 administrations, starting with Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump again, and author of Into the Wood Chipper, a whistleblower's account of how the Trump administration shredded the USAID. Nicholas, welcome to the program. I really enjoyed your book. It was like a memoir, but also sort of like also a policy book in many ways. In like a sort of it's rare that we get to see sort of the operations of these things, and in this, in this case, it's a very specific agency, but this is going to be the story, I think, of our entire government. Maybe not our entire, but a vast majority of all these important agencies, and get a sense of like the institutional degradation that has taken place over just 2 years now, not even 2 years, and what it's going to take to rebuild. So welcome to the program. Why don't we just start with what the USAID $40 billion budget, I believe it is, or was, what did it do?
Yeah, so USAID was the agency in the federal government that delivered foreign aid and international development to countries around the world. Very successful, on about $40 billion, which was less than 1% of the federal budget. Saved 92 million lives over just the last 20 years alone. But important to recognize that it was not a charity. It also did a lot of things to keep Americans safer, especially in global health where I worked. I think since the COVID pandemic, I think we all know that infectious diseases abroad do not necessarily stay overseas, and we prevented, we help countries prevent and detect infectious diseases before they could come to our borders. And we built partnerships that, helped the United States and built goodwill and on the foundation of American generosity over the course of about 6 decades that created an international framework that supported the United States' success over that time.
I mean, it was created under the Kennedy administration, along with things like the Peace Corps. This was a way to project, or in many respects, like American influence, if not power, soft power, and to do so by making friends. I mean, like we essentially to help people, and it was, I mean, aside from, like you say, a lot of this had implications for American health too, because particularly, less so maybe in 1960, but certainly by the time you get to 2020, we saw quite quickly how something that starts all the way around the world can impact this country. It was meant to sort of be, in many respects, good PR, aside from sort of like, it's a good thing to help people. It was good PR for the U.S. Give us a sense of like the various silos, because I've had conversations with people who are very skeptical about U.S. aid, both because I would imagine they perceive it as a slush fund for the CIA, which, frankly, I mean, I'd love you to address that. I think probably a lot of our agencies are. Including a lot of our, defense contractors, but also a mechanism in which to project U.S. corporate agriculture power. So give us a sense of what the breakdown of like how the budget is dispersed and those two critiques, if you would.
Sure. I mean, so we worked in several development sectors. Global health was probably the biggest at about $8 billion a year that USAID was supporting. Humanitarian assistance is probably the next largest. But we also worked in other sectors like food security and education and democracy and human rights and agriculture. And so, but yes, to address your point, I think that's exactly right. It's not just a charity. It's meant to lead, to help America and lead through soft power. And I think it was General Mattis, actually, who said that if you don't fully fund the development budget, then you need to buy me more bullets, because USAID and the work that we did in development and the partnerships that we built was basically the most efficient and effective way to keep America in a leadership role around the world for since Kennedy set it up in 1961. It's not a front for the CIA, and as some of the conspiracy theorists on the far right wing were able to convince Elon Musk, and part of why he ripped it down, just because the name AID is an acronym, and the A stands for agency. It's Agency for International Development and not CIA. But we did always have to deal with conspiracy theorists. I was very surprised, and obviously to a disastrous extent, by how much the administration picked up on those conspiracy theories, and then without learning what the agency actually did, tore it down before even trying to figure that out.
I want to get into those specifics, but let's just in general, I want to talk a little bit about like what the agency, because I think people need to understand the stakes here of exactly what was destroyed. Again, you said $40 billion. That's not, to say it's less than 1% of the budget, I think sort of like overestimates how big it was. I mean, our defense budget this year is something like $950 billion. Yeah. So $40 billion is like a rounding error here. And so let's just talk about, I want to talk about the Sudan in particular, what the USAID was doing in Sudan and is now not doing in Sudan. And then I also want to talk about PEPFAR.
Great. Yeah, so in Sudan, maybe I can start there. That was a country where we were largely providing humanitarian aid and support. In the global health field, that meant providing emergency food assistance and emergency medical assistance, which honestly, when the agency was shut down in the spring of last year, these were where we started to see the first anecdotal examples of people losing their lives due to the cuts. It was because, and just absolutely atrocious stories of families walking all day to the clinic with the USAID logo on the side, only to find it closed, and then having to go home and decide which of their children to feed because they were not able to get food, or pregnant women who were not able to where we're having emergency childbirth issues, were not able to take the emergency ambulance that they had arranged because they were shuttered overnight and were unable to access emergency care when they needed it. So those were kind of like the first emergency cases that we started to hear rolling in about February of 2025. And yeah, just to put it in scope, right? Maybe the less than 1% is kind of a hard way for people to factor, but think about the what's been happening with the some of the wars that we're currently engaged in, or other numbers where you're seeing people die. Just imagine that so far to date, from the cuts to U.S. aid, already 750,000 people have died, and estimates are that about 14 million will die within the next 5 years alone due to those cuts. These are unnecessary deaths. So when you, in the long run, when you think of when the dust settles on the Trump administration, this is going to be his legacy, is tearing down an agency that has one of the largest policy implications of any of the foreign policy actions that he's taken, even though it was such a small amount of money.
So it's basically, a week and a half of what we've done in Iran at this point, in terms of expense. And how do we know about those deaths?
Well, it's mostly due to the incredible work of journalists who have been following the case of what's been happening with the cuts and tracking down what the implications are for those. Most of the projections are based on modeling from disease experts and other sorts of technical projections, because the problem is that the State Department is refusing to release the data, which is required by Congress for them to provide. But basically, since the cuts have been in place, we don't actually know the real numbers. What we're looking at is estimates, because the State Department is sitting on the data of what the actual impacts are. So I mean, for me, that's one of the first things is that we need to do is have Congress demand that the congressionally required data be released so that we can actually see what the true impacts actually are.
All right, let's go through just walk through the timeline a little bit, because you guys at USAID were looking at Project 2025 in the wake of Trump's win, maybe even before that, in 2024, and we're nervous. Tell us what you were anticipating. What you guys were doing at that time, and then we'll go up to Doge, which was sort of boxed out Russ vote briefly, and to obviously a horrible outcome, but maybe a similar outcome.
Yeah, I mean, after the election, anytime there's an election, the first thing we start to do within the civil service is try to learn everything we can about what the incoming administration is planning for USAID. And so, that meant reading Project 2025. That meant trying to think about who the political appointees might be that are going to come in to lead the agency, and what their plans might be. And I was a little bit nervous, to be honest with you. And that was mostly, didn't have much to do with the agency itself. It had to do with the incoming administration's general opinion of the civil servants and career officials that were federal employees in the first place, which was very negative. I mean, you had Russ Vought saying that he was going to try to traumatize the civil servants and turn us into the villains and make us not even want to come to work. That was what I was scared of. But what I wasn't scared of was the agency shutting down, because we had a long history of bipartisan support for our programs, including under the previous Trump administration. And we did expect some shifts. We were probably going to be moving away from some of our family planning work. We were probably going to be moving away from partnerships with the World Health Organization. But it never dawned on me that that they would come in and pull the rug out on these promises that we had made to countries around the world.
Rubio was a big supporter of USAID, and so that you thought would provide some respite, but no.
Right. I mean, Rubio was one of the biggest supporters on Capitol Hill of USAID. I mean, he has a long history of touting the agency and its praises, even saying things like, you should, if you ever have a chance, if you're a critic of USAID, just go to Africa and see the people whose lives and whose children's lives have been saved by our programs there. And it's going to be very hard. I think you said it's going to be very hard to radicalize a people whose children's lives have been saved by American drugs. And so I think one of the saddest things about all of this is the person who was in charge of this, to the extent that he was, Marco Rubio, was absolutely a huge support. He knew what we were giving up.
Can you take us through then, like, what it was like to have these Doge people kind of storm your offices in many ways, and like what the early signs were for you that this is going to be something entirely different than what we anticipated?
Yeah, I mean, it was really, to be honest, quite infuriating. I mean, to the point at the initial start of the segment, talking about, the book does have to go through operations, and I think it's important to do that because this is what happens when an agency is hollowed out of its expertise and is replaced by a group of completely uninformed and unqualified, Doge bros, tech bros, who really not only don't understand anything about how international development or global health works, but really don't even understand how the government works. Terrible managers, no experience with working with projects or people. And so when things start to go wrong, all they could really do was smack the table and make things worse, honestly, and yell at each other. And so I did my best to explain and to warn them of what the impacts of these cuts were going to be, but it truly fell on deaf ears. I mean, they basically would, when I first briefed them on what we did in global health, for example, they looked at me like they were totally shocked and said that when they thought of what USAID did in global health, they just assumed it was just abortion.
They just thought that USAID just provided abortions?
That was it, right? And we don't do. First of all, we don't do that. There's statutory requirements that prohibit the promoting or provision of abortions with any USAID funds. We've provided 0 abortions, although that is a conspiracy theory of the far right. But to think that that's all we did, even if you thought that we did that at all, which we don't, and have no idea of what we do to save 26 million lives from HIV, or the 10 million people who are diagnosed.
Helix green, ready to land.
Project, like they said, or because they were trying to realign foreign aid with the president's agenda. They were doing it to satisfy the ego of the world's richest man, and they really didn't care what it was.
Give me a sense of like what the type of people that you were working with, and just yourself in terms of like what kind of expertise, how long people had been in this, just so we get a sense of like, this is not. And people should understand, these are not a bunch of political appointees. You had been there for 10 years. Where were you in terms of like agent experience? Like, give me like a sense as we look across your office. Who are the types of people that we're going to see?
Yeah, I mean, so they basically fell into 2 categories, I would say. In terms of the political appointees in Doge, it fell into either the cruel.
Well, I'm not talking about Doge. I'm talking about your fellow. I want to get to Doge in a minute.
Oh, okay.
But I'm talking about like the people in your office, because I think people have this understanding of like government. They're all bureaucrats. They don't care. Like my experience has been that people who go into the line of work that you do so because of a deep sense of caring about. The EPA environment, or food safety, or people's health. That like this is not a business that you go into, a business that you're going into. This is like a calling.
Yeah, I have never worked with such a renowned group of experts. These were the doctors, epidemiologists, public health specialists that were the best in the world, and they came from all over the world. And as you say, they saw USAID as an opportunity to contribute to saving lives and making the world a healthier and safer place on a scale that we just couldn't do. There was no other organization or space where you could have such an incredible impact. So people gave up huge salaries. People gave up, practicing medicine. People gave up working in, high-paid firms to come and have the greatest impact that they thought they could. And I've never worked with such an incredible group of experts. So, again, that's what made it so infuriating to see them all kicked out the door.
That's what's so, I can only imagine to have these guys come in, never mind their youth and their arrogance, but also the ignorance. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
We offer only the best care
on
if there's anything you need.
The movie might be a blockbuster. Ready whenever you are.
What can I do
But
for
it
you?
doesn't tell the full story.
You were under his spell.
It's a monster. He's evil.
Michael Jackson had a secret family.
I was groomed since I was born.
Who'll forever be traumatized.
This was the worst thing to live with.
By what he did to them.
None of you knew Liala was being abused.
And made you feel like you were the only one. He's tricked the whole world.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
There's no question, Michael Jackson sure could entertain a crowd.
And
From the age of 6 until his death at 50 in 2009, he was the master showman. The proof he could sing and dance is all through the Michael biopic, currently screening in cinemas. But there's a lot about Jackson's life that's left out of the movie. In fact, the omissions are so glaring, the film stands accused of attempting to rewrite history, which is a terrible disservice to 5 children of the Casio family, now adults, who say Michael Jackson groomed and sexually abused them over a 25-year period. Tonight, with a trove of never-before-seen photos and videos revealing the closeness of their relationship to the pop star, the Casios want the world to know what Michael Jackson was really like. A warning though, unlike the movie, this story is not a sanitized version of events, so viewer discretion is advised. It's the new slick film that has Michael Jackson fans in raptures, immortalizing the moonwalking megastar. But beyond this sanitized tribute is a darker story, the true nature of which can be found in the grainy home videos of the Casio family.
Very natural.
Please, my friends would never believe this.
Forget about your friend.
In 1986, Michael Jackson was a late-night surprise visitor to the Casio family home in New Jersey.
That's cute.
Aw, I can't believe it. See? That Michael's here? Can you believe it?
It was the early days of an unlikely friendship between this humble Italian family and the biggest superstar in the world. A friendship so close, Michael Jackson called them his secret second family.
That's cute. That's my friend, right? My friend.
My parents were young. For them to have such a big celebrity want to be friends with them and want to know their children and visiting in the middle of the night, it definitely felt special, and so did we.
But now, 40 years on, the grown Casio kids
Oh my gosh.
want to expose the dark side of that secrecy.
Like, why is he playing with us? He's an adult. You know what I mean? Like,
Eddie and his sister Marie Nicole.
there's Marie.
Oh my gosh.
Baby Marie.
And brothers Aldo and Dominic.
Yeah, this was before any of the abuse started.
watching their younger selves at Neverland.
Easy.
Michael Jackson's theme park home, where he was the king of the kids. But in truth, it was a house of horrors.
There was a private room.
upstairs.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember that.
Oh my God. That's up there, yeah.
I went in that room.
Tonight, the Cassio family's shocking revelations. Each and every one of them say they were molested by the pop star, but incredibly, none knew of each other's abuse. What does that make Michael Jackson in your mind?
It's a monster. He's evil. What he did was evil.
How is Neon? Are you? Okay. Let me just bring it up on here at the table. Is that a prototype? No, that material isn't anything we... What the? Everyone, come take a look at this.
That's no faction vessel or Crimson Fleet.
And
secret military.
he's tricked the whole world.
No United Colonies Admiral approved that starship design.
They call themselves the Starborn. Demanded we hand over the artifact. Like we were children, playing with their parents' things.
What do people know? Any offshoot groups go by that name?
None in any corner of the settled systems I've seen. Maybe a distant human colony finally popping its head up. Another house for Rune.
I very much doubt that.
To think that he's this innocent, perfect human being, and he's not.
Happens to know about the artifacts.
Can't believe how many photos there are of you guys together.
Oh, and there's plenty more.
We have so many photos.
So many more. No one's ever seen these pictures.
These photos make up just a fraction of the private collection the Cassios have shared with me. What does this stack of photos mean to you?
We have a lot of
represent to
theories,
you?
but nothing concrete.
An innocent
Except that they're
family
after the artifacts, and
getting
they're willing to
conditioned
take
and
them by
programmed
force.
by a mastermind.
We are a close-knit family that he just took advantage of.
Just because we can't ID it doesn't
Michael
mean it's not
Jackson
one of ours.
was a
It's
god.
got shields, engines, all the usual settled systems stuff.
In
I
his
don't mean
time,
to judge
there
your
was no
grasp
bigger
of
star.
material energy, but I've never seen a starship built out of that. Although I
And
bet
it was
if
in
you
the
put that ship hull
mid-1980s
and an
that he
artifact
befriended
under the same
hotel
lens,
manager Dominic Cassio Sr.,
Noel,
wife
start
Connie,
analyzing all the
and their
data from the
children,
ship sensors,
including
the gravitational
Eddie.
wave they caused, scans of their weapons,
How
shields,
old were you
everything.
when you first met
We're
Mike?
in the dark. We need to learn anything about. Until then, all we can do. Vladimir.
Some glints of.
All right. When you have a few moments, there's something I'd like to discuss. Sorry to pull you aside like this, but taking those steps to eradicate. Yes, exactly. Well, apparently,
Docking permission requested.
against it, I follow. Good, good. Despite the
Docking request accepted.
I see. Well, Oh, forgive me for all of this. Sometimes.
Michael Jackson.
I'm going to say I was 2 years old. Yeah, it was 1984. My father used to manage the Hemsley Palace in New York City. And he took care of all the celebrities. And Michael was one of those. I was just a little kid wearing a red suit with white pants. And that was the very first time that I had met him. White pants, and that was the very first time that I had met him.
Soon after, every time Jackson was in New York, he'd catch up with the Casio clan, often turning up late at night unannounced.
He would show up with Bubbles, his chimp, and I remember waking.
About an auxiliary's reaction.
Waking up and all of a sudden there was Bubbles jumping from bed to bed.
The artifacts. I'd like to talk to you. Sounds great. To live on the eye full time.
Anything I can help you with, Captain?
You had a hell of a shake, getting bullied in the void. Starborn, ready to head back out there? Double check the safety and locks wherever you go, okay? Exploration's dangerous, even without some nefarious group trying to kill you. Good luck out there on the fringe. Found one. Keep both eyes on the back while you're out there. And the darkness gets... If you don't want to talk, we don't have to. I've lost you. Playing the proper thief's chorus? Silence? Why'd stare like that, and we haven't even started drinking yet? If you don't want to talk, we don't have to. I've lost you. Playing the proper thief's chorus? Silence? Why'd stare like that, and we haven't even started drinking yet? Raise the thoughts with you later.
selling art is a bit of an art itself.
There's a bit more in the back if you're not. Oh, please, take a look. Oh, please, take a look. Appreciate the business.
Bubbles? No, not with.
It was wild. From that point, you know, whenever he would come into town, like he would come visit.
Warp drive active.
If you don't see if it belongs on your ship, then. Oh, please, take a look. Thanks for shopping at Jemison Mercantile. Hope you're finding everything you need. Oh, please, take a... Thanks for coming in. Hey, we were running low on foodstuffs, so I went ahead and placed another order.
Really? Huh. We'll have to see if that's a long-term trend.
Active.
It's good for them to get that experience.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Landing site is good to go.
Dad, do you think Solomon Coe would have liked me?
Sure. Everybody likes you, don't they?
Do you think he would have liked you?
Well, if you listen to your grandpa, Solomon Coe would have given me a good whooping. But I think he would have liked the man I grew into.